Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. Actually, not very many. I don't know how many of you are in Asia watching me right now, but good late week to you. I made a promise a couple of days ago, and it's time for a little bit of a break. If you are in the producer tiers on my Patreon, you have something that you can watch there, something you have access to if you're intrigued or interested in stuff that's being released on the 31st of May. Otherwise, a little bit longer for the rest of you, but that appears to be done. I might be making a little bit of tinkering, but nothing that will affect a long haul. One way or another, there is a cut that's ready. Anywho, so to take a break from one headache and to jump directly back into another one. I told this story the other day, and I'll reiterate it. On the TV downstairs, I have a YouTube this account signed in, and I have WILIscredia, the channel account, and then just like a dummy account that's just for watching stuff, so that algorithm gets cursed and not my channel one. I made the mistake of signing in from the phone, which my YouTube account was on, and it synced up, and I don't know what the hell it was I watched that was like anti-Plinkett or prequel kids that really hate sequel kids, like not specifically, but like that vibe. And it's been fascinating. And I was suggested some of these videos that we watched a couple of days ago, and we're not anywhere near done. And we're going to be continuing that today. But story update, the algorithm that is on the television, see, we don't have like a cable box or a TV license in it. It's just the internet on the TV. So our choices on the television, other than like a Blu-ray or something, is YouTube. And because of my little mistake, the suggestions have been just absolutely fascinating. So there's another one that I kind of circled. Didn't watch it, mind you, because I don't want to curse my algorithms any further. Maybe the dummy account, sure, but not this account. There is someone who goes at length about surprise, surprise, the sequels, which, you know, fine. I would be the first to agree that they're not the greatest display of cinema, but there was something in that channel that goes after the Plinkett content as well. And over the last 10 years, covering Star Wars or being a content creator in the universe of Star Wars, I've noticed that the fandom, the vocal minority, mind you, when you think about what Star Wars is about and everything that, like, you think of, the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of like a rotten experience in regards to Star Wars, it's because of loud, obnoxious fans that just aren't doing things in the essence of what Star Wars is about. Maybe I shouldn't say Star Wars, because Star Trek is more about live long and prosper, and Star Wars is, the word wars is in there. So we're going to continue what we started a couple of days ago, because there's a bunch of them. There's, I don't know, 8 parts, 9 parts, and at 25, 30 minutes a clip, that's a long go. To be fair, the Plinkett videos, I think the original release was 7 parts, and they were 10 minutes each. So that's 70 minutes. Still, if you think about 2009 YouTube, that's a big deal. That's kind of like releasing a 10-hour review by today's standards. Maybe more with all the YouTube slop out there. Maybe a 40-hour cut. I don't know. Scott says, the guy who understood space tax wars at 7 years old, protecting his childhood. Yeah, burying a movie before it even comes out doesn't help, I would imagine. Yeah, it's just like I don't think a single Gen X fan, a millennial, a Gen Z fan. I don't think we're of the disillusion that everything is sacred and all of these movies are incredible. I would think you owe all of these pieces of the universe something. Star Wars was such a big deal because sci-fi wasn't successful like that in theaters, and it's responsible for a lot. To follow Star Wars, A New Hope, with Empire Strikes Back is like a tremendously big deal. I don't know. It's like following Terminator with Terminator 2, but like on a bigger scale. It Jedi a little less so. The hype for Phantom Menace, I don't know of a single film that could have matched that, and that's kind of the essence of what Gen X fans are bothered by. It was this blockbuster thing that was all about explosions and space pirates doing these things to save the galaxy, and it wasn't. The essence wasn't about like taxes and trade route and talking. It's a different entry that's fair, but it shouldn't be thought of as an attack. If the people who enjoyed the explosions and the fantasy and the space cowboy shit, the Buck Rogers stuff, if they were kind of let down by the pivot, people who enjoy the prequels, awesome, that's fine. You have the same sort of pivot situation with the sequels, where I don't know, it pivoted again, and I think for as much bad as there is in all of Star Wars, I mean, the holiday specials is part of the OG trilogy. There is warts in every little generation there. I think for all the bad that you can bring up about any specific generation, you have to acknowledge the good. And I'll take the bad if it means getting the good. I think what Disney is doing in this new era is they're trying to make a Star Wars for everyone. Whether or not you're into that, whether or not you see right through it, that's besides the point. I think they're trying to have like Star Wars comedy, Star Wars kid stuff, Star Wars like romance stuff, Star Wars The Craft. Like, for as much as people don't like The Acolyte, that's fine. I think the fact that they're trying to do like witch stuff and a bit more a female targeted thing for a Star Wars audience. I think big picture, they're trying to pick out as many different groups as possible and maybe connect them to the middle, where it's like, all right, you like the romance witch shit? Well, why don't you try this thing and we'll get you a little bit closer. And some people that get hooked will want to know, well, wait a minute, what is this about? And why am I not informed on this? Let me find out what that's about. It's not a genre that I care about, but I want to know the extra pieces of this story. It doesn't work for everyone. And listen, Disney Plus era Star Wars, when it's not good, it's not good. Like, very much so. But I haven't caught up with Andor. The first season was something quite different. I don't know if I would call Andor similar to anything we've seen in Star Wars before. And if you're of the Star Wars can only be the original trilogy, well, Andor isn't that. It's a bit more serious, a bit more dark. And if your complaint is that this isn't like my Star Wars, great. You know what? You're not going to like it. But for people that want something in that universe, but with a different flavor. I would say not only is it a different flavor, but it's quite well done. And again, I've heard quite a bit that season 2 has been just masterful. I'm excited. I'm trying not to get my hopes up, but each generation has warts. And if we could just be grown-ups about it and say, you know what, that's cool that you don't like us. It didn't work for you. Funny. But I dug it. I think the other thing that people miss is they're roasting this stuff because it means a lot to them. Like, as a comedian, you don't take the time to shoot barbs at something if you don't give a shit about it. I think part of it is, man, this means such a big deal to me, and it didn't work for me. I want so desperately to love you, and here are the things that didn't work. I'm different. I know that, but in my background, you kid the most with what you love the most. And I feel that completely with a lot of the Plinkett content, a lot of the people that are, granted, the Last Jedi stuff is financially driven in some circles, but if you really hate something like this and you keep doing content about it, if it's not financially driven, then you need to come to terms with some things that maybe you're not dealing with things properly, because if you hate something and keep going back, it's an extension of insanity, the definition of insanity. Jacob says, it says something about the quality of those movies that the defense for them amounts to whataboutism regarding the newer stuff. Yeah, Jacob, I think there's positives, and Budster Brown has a video that he released about the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, and mostly based on episode 3, which I think is the standout of the prequels. It's interesting to hear things from a Gen Z perspective. As a millennial, I was not born yet, and or too young when the original trilogy came out, and I only got introduced to them right before the prequels came out. So I was just a little too old. I was definitely not a kid when the prequels came out. So to experience half of the opening generation and not really have that much investment in what it's worth and what it means to them, I kind of understand both perspectives. It was one of those things where I saw Phantom Menace a couple of times in the theater. It had to be at least 3 or 4 times. And slowly but surely, after watching it a couple of times, it was like, this doesn't have the same feeling that, there have been things that I've watched numerous times in the theater, and Phantom Menace, it didn't stick. For as much as there's standout moments, the pod race, the closing, the lightsaber trio, not duel, great stuff. But to get there, it was quite a slog. And the more I sat with it, and the more Attack of the Clones just didn't work for me. Just outright didn't work. But I was there. I was working at the theater by the time episode 3 came out. We screened it early, and I was so impressed, so won over. And to hear George Lucas talk about that 1 through 6 was the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, seeing it as this 6-part epic. I may not have liked the prequels, but considering what George's vision was, I appreciate and understand that, you know what, fine. If you dig that, if that's what you need for this, cool. I still have my stuff. I'll go back and check in on some of that stuff. And again, I'm glad they exist, because episode 3 is quite good. I know a lot of people that wouldn't trade the prequels if it means not having that Clone Wars show. So, and don't get me started on sequel era stuff. because I will entertain arguments for some things. It's the most sloppy trilogy out of all of them. But again, if you take away the sequels and that means we don't get Andor, I'm not making that deal. I wonder if Disney is trying to do a Star Trek with Star Wars, i.e. movies and TV shows. It seems to have worked for the most part with Star Trek, but not so much with Star Wars. I couldn't tell you why. I think I want to believe that I'm right, or not want to, but I hope that this is the reason. Otherwise, it genuinely doesn't make sense. I think all of the noise on the internet, it may not mean anything to the real world, but it's loud. It's annoying when you're getting people to quit their Instagrams. Like, this isn't just a sequel trilogy thing. Like Jake Lloyd, Ahmed Best, like Star Wars fans at their worst, and not all of them, but the ones who like can't handle life are like really rotten about things that's just they're supposed to be escapes. So I think the noise, having a bigger megaphone in the internet, it brings great things. It brings communities together, but at the same time, it amplifies some of the most hideous voices. My take: the highs of the sequel trilogy are higher than the highs of the prequel trilogy. Parentheses Last Jedi, and the lows of the sequel trilogy even lower than the lows of the prequel trilogy, Rise of Skywalker. I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think I think the anticipation. I don't know if you're matching Empire Strikes Back. If without having any sort of life experience or anything to go on, I can't imagine thinking Star Wars was just the greatest thing ever, and then getting Empire Strikes Back as a follow up. Like, I think that's the, even though it was short anticipation, I think that anticipation, as someone who lived it, Phantom Menace, I think that was a big letdown, but it wasn't an immediate letdown. It was kind of like a, well, that's not what I heard everyone saying when Empire Strikes Empire Strikes Back came out. But I'll give it another 5 or 6 chances. And Force Awakens, I think, matched, didn't clear it, perhaps got as close as the 21st century has seen, the anticipation. I was there opening night for Force Awakens. It did what it had to do as far as I was concerned, and it was Star Wars, and it felt like Star Wars. If you're of the mindset that Star Wars is arguing in court about taxes, that's fine. Then yes, the sequel trilogy is not your Star Wars. But as far as I'm concerned, the anticipation for Force Awakens was matched. It was met, excuse me. And for everyone that was saying that Force Awakens was too samey, I would say Last Jedi, as much as it didn't go over well with people, it gave you something different. It gave you something you didn't expect. And Rise of Skywalker could be the biggest disappointment. The most car crashy way to finish something or to follow something up I think I've ever seen in any sort of franchise. I think the ugliest wart is on the sequels. As much as some people would like to say that The Last Jedi is the worst thing, I beg those people to watch Rise of Skywalker again. And if you think the prequels are that much better than the sequels, I beg of you to turn the internet off and watch those movies, and then, when you're done, ask yourself what it is about Star Wars you like. And I don't know, if you think that the sequels are subpar to the prequels, I would ask, do you think that the original trilogy is subpar to the prequels too? I I don't know. I think the team sports thing is ridiculous, especially for like fiction. It's important to people. I get that. I've seen wrestling fans who have taken things very seriously when it's predetermined. Um, but it should not matter what so and so says about the thing that means a big deal to you because they don't have that experience you do. You can commiserate with someone, but if someone hates something, it shouldn't matter. And I guess that's what this comes back to because a lot of these videos have a specific problem with the Plinkett content, and they're always going back to the Plinkett content. Jacob, you brought this up earlier. It's the attention, and it's probably how I found this stuff and was suggested this stuff. But at the same time, I would like to feel that the movie means more to you. This person, Icy Fire Mage, opened up the first video and basically gave you the story like why the prequels were such a big deal. They were in his home. He started watching them at age 7. Like I get it. Like that's nostalgia. Like you cannot like it, this is like me having the Friday the 13th argument. There's no way that the film themselves they match the quality of whatever's in my brain as far as that experience that that there's a certain smell that I have when a certain part of a movie comes on. Like that's stuff that is intangible. But when you present these things as objective, none of the arguments thus far have kind of told me, yes, from an objective standpoint, from a cinematic, scholarly standpoint, the prequels have done this well. And as someone who is fine with all 3 eras of Star Wars and can acknowledge that all 3 eras have warts, I'm curious to hear something new. But at the same time, I think that the Plinkett videos, they're art in themselves. They're comedy in themselves. If you take the criticisms, at their face, then what do you do with the comedy skits? Because to those people that quote the Plinkett videos as like gospel, yet at the same time, there's all these comedy bits, so you're taking the perspective of someone who it holds people hostage in their house while they're making a video for Star Wars, which, how creepy that in a way, the worst of Star Wars fandom has kind of emulated that kind of characteristic, not holding people hostage, but making people quit off the internet. It's kind of on par for what the Plinkett video is telling you about these people. So, I like them all. I acknowledge they all have hideous flaws, but I'm curious to hear something that isn't, yeah, well, you're ugly. Like, tell me something about the movie that works and that you can point to objectively that is decent filmmaking. I grew up with the prequels. I saw Clones and Sith in the theater. They're bad movies, and again, I'm not a nostalgia-driven person. That third act of episode 3 is it's the best thing that George Lucas has directed since A New Hope. And I think some of that was directed by Spielberg. Star Trek, The Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine came out before the age of social media. Perhaps that makes a difference. I don't know. Dice. It should be noted that everything I'm saying is coming at this from a perspective of a non-Star Wars fan. I'm judging these as movies. I'd like to think that I can do both. That I can kind of put the nerdy fanboy hat on and then kind of step aside and be like, well, objectively, as a film kid, this doesn't work. Which is why The Last Jedi as the middle movie of a trilogy, yes, does not work. But The Last Jedi as a film is the best looking thing, perhaps, in all of Star Wars. You can disagree with me, that's fine. Rise is easily the worst. Can't think of anything redeeming in that one. Yeah, they threw so much at this. Like, it's like, did you care? Did you care at all? Someone said that there's like a 6-hour cut of that like it started as a 6-hour version and they trimmed it to hell up until the last minute. I want to see the unedited, just the raw, all the footage possible, because I want to know, is there something in there? Because you couldn't have fucked up that hard, could you? You have to forgive me. Rise is the only Star Wars movie I've seen that I've hated. I don't have enough investment in these movies to be upset about them. But Rise was a soulless committee movie, devoid of any artistic integrity. I agree with that. And wait, Rise, the only one I've seen that I've hated. I don't have enough investment in these movies to be upset about them. I can recognize that people who do have investment are like, dude, my room's covered in all of your merch. I write fan fiction. Like, it means something to some people. I completely acknowledge that. I get it. But there's got to be a point where if you're going to put on criticism hat, you've got to step away from that a little bit, or like lean into it. If you're going to be like the Star Wars fanatic kid, just be entertaining about it. My new take upon recent rewatches: each trilogy/era has its merits and flaws. Yes, exactly. You know what? Why can't we all just get along and say, hey, this thing sucks, my era sucks here, but how about that thing in your era? Oh boy. And then when you're done with that, you get together and say, well, there's this common spine here that we could all kind of get together on and say, yay, let's talk about the pros now. If it's got to be this team sports shit. Not only could I care less if people don't like what I like, I'm glad it's a niche thing. Preach. I almost like when which is hot take, Mission Impossible, the Final Reckoning is getting a hell of a lot of praise. Oh boy, I wasn't having a good time for like an hour. The stunts and everything to the second half are redeeming to a certain point, but woof, not the best Mission Impossible movie. And the first hour, if you like people telling you what's important, you're gonna have a blast. But yeah, I almost like it when I expect something to be terrible because I've heard other people say it's terrible, and then like enjoy myself. It's fun because it feels like it's my own little secret. I'm a hipster about a movie that everyone hates. If there's one thing I love about modern movies, if there's one thing I love about my favorite modern movies being almost entirely independent or foreign, it's that they aren't subject to nerd discourse. Go give it time. Today, I failed to see the purpose of the sequel trilogy besides easy money. Yeah, they started somewhere, but very clearly they didn't have any sort of vision. And it's depressing. It's unfortunate because I felt, as far as where they were trying to go, there were good ideas there. I don't know what the fuck happened. It's exactly where I stand. I've embraced that what I enjoy isn't widely loved, but I'm happy I found something that speaks to me. All right, exactly. It's nice to have an outlet and have some place to go to talk about things that you love and or dislike, but just within reason. Don't be a lunatic about it. They're just movies after all. Yes, they're a big deal to you, but not to everyone. Acknowledge that. That's all. Personally, I don't think the prequel trilogy is good enough to justify its own existence. However, there's a generation of people who grew up with these movies and to whom they are precious. Yeah, the Mrs. and I just watched Lilo and Stitch, the original animated movie, and she watched it a couple of times growing up, and I just like forgotten it. Like having watched it, I was like, it's not great, but you know, there's definitely a difference in appreciation and opinion. I won't go back to watch it anytime soon, but I could acknowledge that you know we're in different levels on a couple of different fronts, and if it works for you, that's great. You could have my copy. More for you. Every single moment in Rise is a sheepish plea to capricious fan base. Please stop yelling at me. Everything good about Johnson's movie is not walked back, but stomped on with shocking ferocity. Yeah. Yep. All right. Shall we continue in the disaster piece? I'm going down to the bottom corner now. Here I am. Hi. All right. So, multiple part series, of which each video is around half an hour, give or take, 10, 15 minutes or 5. Again, I'm hoping that at some point we get some good counter discussions as to why they work or anything. The first 2 times, it felt a bit more like I'm going to treat the satirical lines as if they're genuine criticisms, and anything that I genuinely have something to counter, it's this, like, I don't know, dictionary synopsis reading that if you're watching a film, better yet, if you're deaf and watching the Star Wars prequels, you're not getting that information. And film is a visual medium. That is something of a nuanced description of how I felt thus far, but I'm open to hearing new things. I'm just hoping that there's something of worth here.
Part 3. Now this is where it gets complex, my lovelies.
Oh boy, here we go.
So I think this is what happened, I'm not sure. But Palpatine wanted to create a crisis on Naboo so that the naive young queen would propose a vote of no confidence for Chancellor Valorum.
No, Palpatine wants to put Valorum in a position where he looks incompetent. Getting Amidala to call for the vote of no confidence is a bonus born out of circumstance.
This would lead to Palpatine getting elected in his place, right? Like, I mean, that's the plot, I think.
I mean, it's part of it.
Yeah. So the fact that he says, I think that's the plot, I think, and your answer being it's part of it, is kind of playing into the fact that it's convoluted. I don't think if you were to take all of the original trilogy and take all of their plot points together, sure, there's a couple of things happening at once, but I don't think it's tremendously hard to describe those things. Whereas in just episode 1 alone, there's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of information that isn't really exposition. For as much as there's talking, the exposition isn't as to the point as something like Mission Impossible Final Destination.
So how does killing the Jedi or creating a communications blackout on the planet even get word back to the Senate that there is a crisis?
They already know there's a crisis. The planet of Naboo is currently being blockaded. Okay, I can tell I'm going to need to guide people through this. Let's say that the Jedi die and the invasion goes ahead without a hitch. What happens next? Palpatine will probably ask some pretty pointed questions on the Senate floor, right?
See, this is where I would suggest maybe ask that the person who's presenting these points have visual aids. I know you can do visual aids because you've done ton of repeat memes as like exclamation points on your what? This is so dumb to say this. To prove your point and to use words like objectively so often, treat this like a court case, treat this like Exhibit A, and give us the visual rundown on where this works. It's not like I'm trying to shit on anything. I'm genuinely trying to hear things, but when it just sounds like a nah, sequels suck, like that doesn't convince me that the prequels don't.
Why is the Trade Federation still on Naboo? Where are the Chancellor's ambassadors? I had assurances that this dispute would be resolved so my planet could be free from this oppression, but now I haven't received any communications from the planet at all. What is happening? What are you doing to resolve this crisis, Chancellor? Stuff like that. His goal was to create a confrontation. No matter what happens, as long as the Trade Federation continue to be antagonistic, he can use that to his advantage.
At the end of the movie, Amidala goes back to...
But he's the one responsible for all that. So, like, he's doing things on purpose. Hey, Chronic Chaos. Hi. Listen, I'm not rooting to hate on Phantom Menace nearly as much as some people would. But it's, as someone who's wanted to watch it and someone who's tried to go back in years since, it's a bit dull. Before the pod race, there's not much stimulation. And yes, I'll say it as a grown adult with a 5-year-old brain. I don't have much stimulation in that movie prior to the pod race, which I do have in the original trilogy and the sequels. If you can give credit to Rise of Skywalker for one thing, there's lots of things happening. Lots of fancy pictures and sounds. Doesn't really mean anything, but it's visual candy.
the planet to solve the problem herself, because the Senate wanted to send an independent team to investigate whether or not the invasion was real.
Will you defer your motion to allow a commission to explore the validity of your accusations?
I guess the testimony of 2 Jedi Knights wasn't good enough.
Yeah, that's the point of the opening title crawl, is that the Senate is really bloated and doesn't function quickly. Plus, Palpatine is manipulating the Trade Federation and the bureaucrats to make Chancellor Valorum look like he can't handle this. Every party has a say in the Senate, right? And the Trade Federation have just accused the Queen and the Jedi of lying about an invasion on Naboo so that the Senate would be forced to sanction the Trade Federation further.
Okay. So, do you think there could be a better way to portray that information visually for a movie-going audience who expect to see a sci-fi fantasy action-adventure film? Because floating discs in space court, I don't know if that's what people want to do when they take their family out to see a movie with lightsabers. This is where things like tonally inconsistent come up. And I've heard this term brought up a lot about a lot of Star Wars movies, tonally inconsistent. But what kind of movie would you expect, this to be in? Because it's not even like Space A Few Good Men. It's just I don't know, space Kevin Smith without the cursing and pot.
This is outrageous. I object to the senator's statements.
And Valorum is forced to entertain both parties because it's a democracy. Each side has a right to be heard. So what is his solution?
Yeah, see, so this image right here is visually much more stimulating than that footage, which is saying something.
The point is conceded. Will you defer your motion to allow a commission to explore the validity of your accusations?
He wants to verify the truth of the situation before making a decision. It's a perfectly reasonable position to take here, but because Palpatine knows what he'll do, he's preempted the Queen to make it look like Chancellor Valorum is corrupt and...
Yeah, no, there's got to be a better way to portray this information visually, because this isn't doing it. I'm sorry, this isn't doing it. You know, having dialogue exchange where there's something being brought up or exposition being distributed, you know, for a little bit is one thing, but to just have space court that just drones on and it loses me. You seem to be ignoring that we got lightsabers in space court later. Genius way to combine those two groups. I come with love. I want to like space court. I do. Just you know, give me the I don't know. Give me the squirrel to keep my attention. I don't dislike the prequels. Listen, I own them. I would have learned my lesson during the Blu-ray transfer. 4K? No, I had the DVDs, I had the Blu-rays, and I have the 4K. So at some point, I would have been like, no, F this.
Useless.
F.
It's incredibly well written. Every character is making intelligent decisions.
Well written. All right. Hey, can you show your work on that one? That it's incredibly well written? Okay, so for film, again, I will refer to A Few Good Men. Very well written, extraordinarily so. Court stuff happening. Aaron Sorkin is probably one of the best people to write dialogue that's snappy and flashy and quick. And you can kind of do something visually to it. When you're making stuff for big budget film, you want some sort of visual flair to go with that dialogue, that snappy dialogue. Quentin Tarantino does both very, very well, except when he's not. You know, he gets a little full of himself sometimes. But Tarantino is probably the best person to give you snappy dialogue and snappy visuals to go with that dialogue. George Lucas, you know, he got his credit, all the attention of the world for his incredible world building, but the visuals, I don't know if the writing would be the thing that I would give credit for in the prequels. If you're writing stuff and it's losing people, I don't know if that's the route we would take. Senator Palpatine and Chancellor Valorum go at it with bare knuckles and strip down to the waist. See, now we're talking. Space Court just got way better. I'm in.
But only Palpatine sees the entire picture, and he ends up with all the power because of it.
Those were the guys.
No. If that's what you interpreted, that Palpatine was merely a passenger through half of this, and then suddenly he inherited a great situation, that's not what the movie's telling you. That's not what the franchise is telling you. He is pulling the strings the whole way, so does it really matter? Like, you have to be invested in how a thing happens if you know how it's going to play out, or in which direction it's going to play out.
Valorum trusted enough to settle the whole dispute in the first place? That don't make sense.
Yes, it does. They were there to settle things, and they failed. Then they reported an illegal invasion of the planet, which was fervently denied by the Trade Federation. An invasion is a declaration of war. Valorum isn't going to just want to rush to a conclusion here. He needs to make sure what the Jedi are telling him is true, which is a slow process, and risks lives on Naboo. Or he has to declare war on the Trade Federation. He can't just do that with only the word of the Jedi to justify it.
So anyways, when the...
I forgot that we were reacting to a Plinkett video. A hero's journey with no clear protagonist and barely a 3-act structure. Master level writing. He did it the first time. He borrowed a bunch from Mr. Kurosawa. He continued to do that visually in a certain regard in the prequels, but he did a hero's journey rather well. So, like, I know he knows how to do it. I will say this. It's a shame if George Lucas wanted to do like a politics-driven thing because of like how he felt about the way the world was, whatever direction it was going in. It's a shame that Fox or someone didn't throw, James Cameron money at him to make his space A Few Good Men. But when you make all of this money from a thing that people appreciate the first time around, it's not like for Empire Strikes Back. He was like, you know what? I'm going to do the O.J. Simpson trial, but for Darth Vader. Like that's quite a turn. But he developed an audience with a certain style, and then kind of did things quite differently on multiple levels. He could have. We know he knows how to do the hero's journey shit. Well, he didn't do it well here. If you understand it and you appreciate it, great. Most people don't.
Guys told Palpatine that Jedis were there. He should have said this.
Tell the Jedi that there will be no negotiations. Tell them that you plan to invade the planet next, and then send them back to Coruscant to inform the Senate.
That's a pretty good Palpatine.
Fucking A it is.
But he definitely shouldn't do that. Why would the Trade Federation tell them they plan to invade? That would instantly raise suspicion among the Jedi. Also, it requires talking to and manipulating the Jedi.
But killing the Jedi wouldn't raise suspicion? What? They try to snuff the Jedi out like within seconds of the movie. So it doesn't appear as if they're that concerned about what the Jedi think about things, because aren't the Jedi sent as negotiators, but they don't exactly know they're negotiators from the start? The negotiators that are sent, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, they don't say that they're Jedi before they get there. So they're apparently just people to negotiate, but when they find out they're Jedi, they decide that they need to end them. So if they were concerned about what Jedi think, why would they try to snuff them out immediately? I don't think this statement that they were concerned about what the Jedi would think, I don't think, from the information we get within 10 minutes, says quite the opposite.
And that isn't something either Gunray or any other Shadownarian is willing to do.
Are you brain dead? I'm not going in there with 2 Jedi.
Plus, it kind of ruins their plan because the Jedi can warn the Naboo with their starship, and then there will probably be significantly more resistance on the planet. Or the Queen will flee, which defeats the whole point of the invasion anyways. Plus, what happens if the Jedi are successful in their intimidation of the Trade Federation, and they disband the blockade and give up on Palpatine? That could be really dangerous for everyone involved on the Sith side. Killing the Jedi, or attempting to, is actually a much safer tactical move. It leaves way less ambiguity, and it forces the Republic to respond to a direct attack.
Instead, he tells him to do the exact opposite of what will help his plan.
Yeah, obviously did not think that through.
Like he wanted her to sign the treaty, right?
I want that treaty signed.
Kind of. He wants them to force her to sign it, so he can turn around to the Senate and make the case that the Federation invaded, killed Nabooians, forced the Queen to sign a treaty under duress because the Chancellor threatened them. Then he can use that to push his no-confidence vote. All of Palpatine's plans are not to get Amidala to Coruscant, they are to make Valorum look as inept as possible, even if it means killing his own queen and the people of his planet.
You don't think that there's a shorter, more concise way to depict that information than this convoluted nonsense? I'm almost certain that there's a way to give that synopsis across and have it be a little bit more cohesive.
I'm really intent on having her sign the treaty to make the invasion legal.
He did, because he wants the Trade Federation to believe that it is their top priority, not because it's the only way he can win.
So what if she was like a total coward and then actually signed the treaty? Like right away? Then the crisis would be over and there'd be no need for a vote of no confidence.
The blockade is still there, and your planet is now occupied by an enemy army. And that is crisis over for you. Palpatine is the senator of Naboo.
The chair recognizes the senator from the sovereign system.
Yeah, but she's the queen. If she signs it, then the army, it's like the army is there to instigate, to influence her in signing it. So if she signs it and then they attack, like that is... What? He's proving the point. He's defending mostly politics scenes, talking at tables in a space action movie. He said in earlier videos that he enjoyed it when he was 7. I was not 7 when I saw this. Again, kind of glazed over, leaving me out of the theater with the trio lightsaber duel with Darth Maul and all that. Kind of confused me in thinking, wow, that was pretty badass. And yes, the John Williams score, Duel of the Fates, some of the best stuff out there. It ends on a very high. But when you go back and watch it again, you're like, oh, this is going to take a while to get to the good stuff, isn't it? Much like a brand new Tom Cruise movie I just watched.
Of Naboo.
He knows the queen.
Queen Amidala is young and naive. You will find controlling her will not be difficult.
And he knows she won't sign it. And even if she does, he can use that to his advantage too.
So there's a Chinatown thing happening with Palpatine. He's acting one way with some people and another way with others, but we, the audience, I seem to recall the Star Wars fandom having issue with unreliable narrator type stuff. Just saying. Not saying, just saying.
See what I mean? This sounding like an 8-year-old wrote it?
Your video or this movie?
So anyways, it's time to kill off the Jedi. Oh good. How do they go about it? Well, they start pumping in an obvious deadly white gas into the room. This alerts them to danger. Well, actually, blowing up their ship does. I guess they should have pumped in the gas first, and after the Jedis were dead, then blow the ship up? Anyways, back to the gas. Hey idiots! Have you ever heard of carbon monoxide? It's odorless and colorless.
Put it
Your
in the
wife won't
tea.
even know what hit her. Oh, I mean Jedi.
How would they know the Jedi could sense their ship blowing up?
Have you ever encountered a Jedi Knight before, sir?
Well, no.
And I'm pretty sure the visuals of the gas are for the audience, so we know what's happening here. The Jedi are obviously already aware. Also, this was kind of an impromptu decision, not a planned.
Wow. The gas is for the audience. Yes, quite fair. But by that logic, don't you think that visuals like the gas being for the audience could be used for the courtroom scenes to show us things, the audience, that we're not the characters, but we need to be have our hands held through some of this? Wouldn't that help in that moment too? For the audience, for the audience's sake, wouldn't you want to distribute the information a bit more clearly, visually speaking? I think it's funny that once again a joke, a bit is kind of it disintegrated here. The point. Oh, we haven't gotten to the put it in the tea part yet. This is some of my favorite. Emily and I both quote the "put it in the tea." Some of the best stuff on the video.
Assassination. They probably used what they had available on short notice.
Also, moments earlier, the Jedi willingly drank tea that was given to them, while they discussed how everything felt really fishy.
I sense an unusual amount of fear for something as trivial as this trade dispute.
Hey, you guys got any rat poison lying around? Put it in the tea! Put it in the tea! They'll drink it! Put the rat poison in the tea!
Why would they be able to sense the explosion of their ship and the poison gas, but not poisoned tea? Jedi can sense emotions. Malice is an emotion. And then, if they discover the tea is poisoned, you have two pissed off Jedi running around your ship and not in a locked room filled with poison gas.
Hey, touche, but I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke, and it.
Anyways, then the dioxazine starts filling up the room, and then...
Dioxazine.
Hey, wait. How does Qui-Gon know what kind of gas it is before he smells it?
Probably the color and the way it was venting in the room. You just pointed it out.
Isn't that like a contradiction?
No.
Do you smell the deadly white gas? I guess it's a little too late. Maybe we just got a little sniff of it. Anyways, you know, this idea could work, because we see that the Jedi hold their breath, which implies there's some kind of danger of them running out of breath, right?
Sure, but whether or not this plan works is irrelevant. The Trade Federation are supposed to be in over their heads and not competent at waging war and assassinating Jedi Knights. The merchants, with a manufactured army, who have put themselves in a terrible position politically and strategically because they followed the orders of a Sith they didn't fully understand. If they fuck up the assassination, that's in line with their characters. The competent villain is Palpatine. These guys are his puppets, and they are specifically his puppets because they are easy to manipulate and easy to get rid of.
At that moment, how do we know that Palpatine is a competent villain? Throughout the first film, how do you know that Palpatine is a competent villain? And if they're not competent, why would you think we'd have a reason to expect and or want the Queen to sign the treaty if we're to know that they're incompetent? Are we still in episode 1? Yes, we are. We're not even like through the opening 20 minutes of the movie.
Maybe they could hold their breath for like 2 hours because they're Jedis. Well, no, that's not true, because later in the film we see they need to use them breathing things underwater for that short swim to the Gungan Sea World.
How long is the swim to Gungan Sea World again? Because in the movies, it's a montage cut. We have no idea how long they were swimming for. It could have been hours. They have a device that lets them breathe underwater, and they're swimming on a planet they've never been to a place they've never been to, in an ocean they've never seen. Even if it is just a short swim, why not use...
So if they're on a ship they've never been to, and they feel like they're being poisoned, they wouldn't use that? Like poisoned. They would just hold their breaths and not use this breathing apparatus that may help them for hours. Like your case against the joke defeats itself. Like you're doing a heck of a lot of work for this. Chekhov's air stick should have been introduced slightly earlier.
The device, right? But it's not a short swim. Look at the distance they have to cover in just this shot. You try to do that, only holding your breath.
But the Jedi are special.
A short swim. You just made that up.
So anyways, it's like the Jedi know that the droids are going to open up the door in a very short time before they run out of breath.
Plinkett, what are you talking about? How long is it in the Star Wars universe between this shot and this shot? Do you have any idea? Do you have a Star Wars watch I don't know about that tells you the time in canon of the scene you're watching? What if they were holding their breath for like 4 hours? How would you know? You wouldn't, because the film wouldn't show us that. Because 4 hours of fog and meditation would be boring.
That the problem there is the film shows us after it that they have a device to hold their breath. A physical device, an objective device that they use to hold their breath. So if they have it on them, why not use it there? That is the problem.
We know the Jedi have a supernatural ability with the Force, and it allows them to perform physical feats of strength normal people would be incapable of. If that extends to the ability to hold their breath for a really long time, I think that's in line with the given rules of the original trilogy.
So why not have that for swimming then?
Because they don't immediately start trying to cut their way out.
Okay, but if they do start cutting their way out, the scene plays out the same way. And if they started to run out of breath, that's probably what they do. Having Obi-Wan cutting one side, Qui-Gon cutting the other, then Force pushing the cut out segment onto the pile of droids would be pretty cool. But what they...
I like visuals. Thank you. Thank you for giving me pictures to look through. I wish this was done the whole time.
end up doing is totally reasonable too. They cut down the cheap and unintelligent robots and pursue their target to the control center.
Yeah. Hi. Film criticism dweeb coming in. If you don't feel like there's any stakes, like if you feel like there's more stakes with the poison gas than there is a gaggle of enemies, it doesn't really heighten the drama very much. Part of the problem with the prequels, I mean, you could say this about a lot of the Star Wars movies, if not most, if not all, is the droids, the stormtroopers, they don't really pose much of a threat. And if they don't pose much of a threat, there's not really much to concern yourself with. The stakes aren't really that high. Kind of a problem. Cut through them like butter is a problem.
Because the Viceroy assumed they were dead after unspecified amount of time passed.
Which is what I'd be doing. I'd probably be screaming too, like a little girl. So what are they doing in there?
Preparing.
Then the dumbest line in the movie is said.
They must be dead by now. Destroy what's left of them.
If that's the dumbest line in the movie, then it's doing pretty damn good considering.
Saving what we love.
No.
Hey, look. We did an and we're going to get another one. Yeah, once again, the 1999 film that has an issue 18 years prior to this film doesn't have much to say in regards for the 1999 film. Charles, what are you doing live at this normal hour? I don't know. I hate myself. Yeah, the sun is. Oh, you can't see it anymore. Well, the sun was still coming in the room here, but I don't know. My sleep schedule's upside down. But here we go. Yet another. I'm gonna have to create a sequel trilogy, if not just the Last Jedi. Just the Last Jedi. Dig counter. Just the Last Jedi. Brain's not cooperating.
Away.
What does that mean? Hey, asshole. How about you leave the door closed for like 4 hours?
Oh, hey! I cheated. I knew you'd say that. I lied to all of you.
And then if they try to cut through the door, start shooting them in the face.
Okay, so look what happens when Qui-Gon cuts through this initial door here. You can't shoot through that. And how do you know it wasn't 4 hours already? Seriously, this isn't real time. We are being shown the action, not the dead periods. Stop assuming things.
Then pump in more gas and keep pumping it in.
If the Jedi aren't breathing, what would more gas do?
Obviously, you've never suffocated a hooker that was trying to escape from your crawl space before. I recommend spraying Raid in there. You need to go with the fast kill, low irritant kind. It's in the blue bottle. It works the best. You'll need about 6 cans though. What was I?
So it can be argued that the whole poison for 4 hours thing is a contrivance in the Plinkett narrative, a setup, if you will, for the payoff of joking about dead hookers. It may or may not be, but from a comedic standpoint, considering you're laughing at it, for the narrative of the art itself within the criticism, it fits the narrative. Sometimes you contrive your perspective in fiction to assist in your points. It's so weird that he picks the most watchable movie in the sequel trilogy to take shots at. Yeah, the most visually appealing, sure. But the worst line was the claim. So yes, the sequel trilogy did have some stinky lines.
What are you talking about?
Killing hookers.
Oh, right. So they opened the doors anyways.
Oh, you meant before.
And they let the Jedi out and attacked them with completely useless robots.
Yes, Palpatine specifically created a threat from a large, annoying, but easy to dismantle faction to antagonize the Republic. They aren't supposed to be a serious threat. They are supposed to look intimidating and be annoying.
Just tell them to leave.
So if you know that, you're okay with that as an audience member, that you know the stakes aren't really there. Yes, it's more of a reach to think that it hasn't been 4 hours than to think that it has. Nailed him.
And then you don't want to negotiate.
No!
Kill them immediately.
And then when their ship flies out of your space dock, shoot it with lasers.
The ship with the shields?
Captain, look!
That you are releasing past the blockade and into open space, where they can easily hyperspace away. Not the ship with no shields that isn't expecting you sitting idle in your hangar. The one that's fully operational, flying away from you, that can easily escape. Leaving 2 Jedi alive and traveling quickly back to tell everyone you tried to kill them before you can even get your invasion underway?
But if once the Jedi leave, if they get killed while in custody there, is the thought process that the rest of the Jedi won't be worried or concerned or want to find out what the hell happened to them? Is it only if they escape that it becomes a problem?
The Trade Federation doesn't know about Palpatine's full plan. Letting the Jedi go would help him, fine, but it would negate the Federation as a faction. The
Jedi wouldn't know Palpatine's plan anyway. Palpatine's not there.
Leaving Palpatine without an active threat that allows him to take full control of the Republic.
Also, we need to consider the fact that killing 2 Jedi that were sent there as peaceful ambassadors would be a pretty heinous crime in the eyes of the Galactic Senate, an organization that runs everything, including the space taxes.
Yeah, we do need to consider that. That might cause a war.
I mean, you could just claim that they never got there.
I know nothing of any ambassadors.
I have assurances from the Chancellor. His ambassadors did arrive.
But now you've got the burned wreckage of their ship inside your horribly burned docking bay.
Look at that, out there. See that? That's space. You just vent the wreckage into fucking space. It's gone forever. No.
When in the Star Wars franchise have they informed us that could vent out things? I don't recall there being any sort of venting done in docks.
No one will ever find it. Then you clean the floors.
Job's done.
Number 4. Who's doing what?
The fact that Plinkett has openly confessed to killing prostitutes and all this guy can focus on is these fucking Star Wars movies is very telling. Shameful. It's my understanding that that's part of the joke. Like, hey, the Plinkett guy, he's weird. Why is he talking about all this weird psychopathic stuff? But also he's got good points about Star Wars. Like, yeah, but he's a lunatic. workers are dying, man. Call the cops. Like, yeah, so you agree with a character that is an absolute psychopath. Like, that's part of the joke.
Where? Why? Why are the Shatnerians taking orders from this?
A guy who puts pizza rolls in an envelope to send to people. Like, that's someone whose decision-making you're going to trust?
Mystery hologram again.
It's not a mystery hologram. It's Palpatine. Shit. Look, we can do this with any movie, right? We don't know specifically why the Shatnerians are in this specific position listening to the Sith Lord at this exact moment, right?
It'd be great if we could be informed.
But in exactly the same way, at the start of episode 4, we don't really understand what's happened to get us to this point, right? We don't understand where the plans came from. We don't understand how the rebels stole them. We just understand that they did steal them. That's the stakes it's given us.
No. See, this is what we've covered earlier. Visually, you have all the information you need from just the cinematography. The placement of the camera, it does a lot. I don't remember the exact terminology and all that shit, but see, this has been covered already.
Episode 1 has set us up with the stakes that Palpatine has manipulated these Shatnerians.
No.
Into an untenable position where they have essentially waged war against the Republic, and they are now terrified about the consequences.
What did he promise them that would be so worth risking their entire organization for?
Considering the title crawl, probably money or control over all galactic trade in the Republic.
See, when you like have a literal sentence out there for you and your defense is probably, that's bad. That's bad that you have to like literally put a paragraph out there and still the information isn't clear. That's a problem.
Something to that effect. The Trade Federation.
On the flip side, you have the dead speak, which is awful.
Motives are simple. They are greedy and the Republic is cutting into their profits.
The location of the Fountain of Youth? A planet made of gold? Corrective surgery for this woman's face? How about a night in Megan's foxhole?
That's a fucking blast from the past right there.
I'd like to introduce the first segment ever of Megan Fox Watch.
Good times.
What's happening?
Seriously, what was it? Oh, we're never told, are we?
No, we are not directly told. We don't really need to be, though, because the film does a good job establishing each faction's position politically and
false.
Tactically. The Trade Federation have put themselves in a precarious position, working with Palpatine. Naboo is struggling to survive the blockade. The Senate is large and ineffectual, and Palpatine is pulling the strings on both sides to give himself power.
So, in the beginning, we don't know that they're working with Palpatine, but at the end, do we have a Kaiser Soze moment where we find out that they were working with him? And I guess, do they? I know they say this deal's getting worse, but I don't remember if that's directly with Palpatine.
Generally speaking, it's easy to get a handful of insane people to follow you on some kind of legal or crazy scheme. But when you're talking about a huge organization that's run with military efficiency, then they're probably going to want something in return.
Like, what's the retort to that?
For the use of 30 of their ships and risking everything. Darth Sidious can't really promise them future political favors.
Why not?
Because it would give away who he is.
How? They know he has political influence already.
My lord. Is that legal?
I will make it legal.
Why would offering political favors reveal his identity? He could just say, oh, I control a guy in the thing.
So if his identity being revealed isn't a big deal, then why are they hiding his identity?
He doesn't have to be the guy.
When they got arrested at the end,
why not have Darth Maul be the person who does the talking with him? If
They could just say, it was like a hologram in a cloak. He made us do it. In fact, he looks like Palpatine. And he sounds like him, too. We got the recordings of the hologram. You want to look at him? I find it hard to believe that these guys never started pointing fingers after they got caught.
But they never got caught. They died. Remember?
That's episode 3.
In this movie, they get arrested, but it's clear from the end of 3 that they weren't prosecuted.
If you're watching this in 1999, you don't know jack shit about 3. Much like you don't know shit about 2017.
Number 5. I can't put enough quotation marks around the word story, so I won't try.
Sir, they've gone up the ventilation shaft.
How do you know that?
They were on camera.
I said, how do you know that?
It was the cameras.
Answer me, thing in the mouth face.
Always doing a thing.
Yeah, it's a funny bit.
What is that anyways? What, did you smoke too much? What's wrong with your face? Anyways, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, they end up in the hangar bay somehow, where the droid armies are being staged for an invasion. Why don't the Jedis just start fighting all of them?
Because they aren't suicidal? What the fuck?
But we've seen the Jedi fight the droids, and there hasn't been much competition. So us as an audience, from what we've seen so far, can't factor the droids as a competent opponent. As you've said earlier, if they're not competent, what do the size of the
steal a ship and head back to Coruscant to tell the Galactic Senate what's going on. It's not so crazy because later in the film they attempt to run the blockade with one ship and they make it through. The fact that they even tried that makes this a possible option.
What? They ran the blockade after specifically looking for and acquiring a ship that could run the blockade.
Do you have transport?
In the main hangar, this way.
Transport.
So they should fight.
He didn't specify what type of transport. He just said transport. My memory of Darth Maul is that he was the muscle, but I haven't seen this movie in like 18 years. Fair enough, but like, if Palpatine is okay with people knowing who he is, then what the fuck's with the getup? Like, part of it is like it's trying too hard to be. I don't know. Duplicitous? It's the effort is admirable. The execution, less so.
Thousands of droids alone, just the 2 of them. What the fuck?
What is wrong with your face? But instead, Qui-Gon in all his wisdom thinks it's a better idea to go down with the army to, quote, warn the Naboo.
We've got to warn the Naboo and contact Chancellor Valorum.
Hey, genius, if you're going down with the army, don't you think it's a little too late to warn them about the army?
They aren't going there to warn them about the army. They're going there to warn them about the Viceroy trying to assassinate them. Qui-Gon thinks they might do the same to Amidala.
Thank you, Ambassador. But my place is with my people.
Yeah, that's Kira. Oh, wait, yeah. Natalie Portman's in
you if you stay.
And what the fuck are the Naboo gonna do anyways?
Run away. Live. Try to get help.
They don't even have a real army, just volunteers.
Our security volunteers will be no match against the battle-hardened Federation army.
Precisely. It's time to run.
So the droid army just rolls in, unchallenged as expected. Just like the Nazis into France in a little historical event you might have heard of. What was it called? The French Revolution.
See, guys, it's funny because he did the same joke. He just did it again.
Anyway.
He's wrong. Yet again, hammering home why he shouldn't put much weight behind Mr. Plinkett's opinion. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. It's part of the joke. The grand scheme, the bigger essence of this video or video series, that the Plinkett character is not someone that you should really consider very strongly.
ways. So then for no reason they decide to stow away on different ships.
Let's split up. Stow aboard separate ships and meet down on the planet.
Is this guy a fucking retard?
Oh.
Maybe that's why they call him Qui-Gon Jinn. Because he's always drinking gin. This is a minor point, but what would going down on the planet on separate ships accomplish?
A lot, actually. So first, if one of them gets lucky enough, they will land closer to the capital, and they can get there faster. Second, if one of them gets caught, it means they still have another person who can accomplish the mission. Third, it makes them smaller, harder to locate targets because they aren't moving around together.
Yeah, this always works in horror movies. Splitting up always works.
Fourth, if they end up landing near each other, they can get a better understanding of how the Trade Federation army is moving and where they can go to avoid detection. There are probably more benefits, I'm sure, but that's good enough to start with, I think.
Let's think about this. Number 1, increase the chances of getting caught by 100%.
What? How? You effectively doubled the size of your operation and cut the group working on it in half. Haven't you lowered the chances of detection by 50% and reduced the chance of the mission failing if someone does get caught by another 50%?
No, because as a group, you're one entity. If you split up and you become two entities, there's actually now double. 2 as 1 is the same as 1 and 1. Excuse me, 2 as 1 is different than 1 and 1.
It's fine, I'm sure he'll explain it.
2.
No.
Have no one else to help you if you get caught and get into a fight with...
I don't think that getting into the pedantry is helping the case at all. But, like, this shouldn't be this convoluted.
Robots.
Yeah, but if you get into a fight, you're dead or captured anyway. 2 Jedi aren't going to take on an army. At least this way, if one of you does get caught, one is still active.
3. Increase the possibility of getting separated by hundreds, if not thousands of miles by not knowing where the other craft is going to land on the planet.
Yeah, maybe one of them gets lucky and lands near the capital so he can go and tell the queen and make sure she's alive.
Oh, good. We're putting lotto logic into this. Well, hey, you never know. You won't win if you don't try.
They're both pointed in that direction anyway. They will eventually find each other. Plus, they're Force sensitive. They have the ability to find each other in the Force.
No. Space magic.
See, Luke does it here with Vader. It's a thing Jedi do.
But thankfully, they both aren't discovered and they meet up in the same spot in the woods.
No, not thankfully. I mean, yeah, thankfully they weren't discovered. But being far from Thule is a problem for both of them. They would have much preferred to land near the capital.
Then, although the reason for them going down to the planet was to warn the Naboo about the army, they decide to follow a cartoon rabbit underwater. Why? Why not just keep moving towards the Naboo city?
Did you forget the army? They were just running from it.
Hey, Ginny, I thought you went down there to warn the Naboo. How is this going to accomplish that?
They can't warn anyone if they're dead.
What was your plan from the beginning when you got down there?
To warn the Naboo. They have to avoid the army still. Jar Jar offers them a way.
So if they have to avoid the army, why would they ride with the army? Like, I realize it's easy to understand that as a 7-year-old, but it still doesn't make sense if you think about it for 4 seconds. They're trying to avoid the people, but they're going to ride with them. Charles, can we please get another Watto impression? Yeah, if you give me something to say, let me lubricate my lungs there. Lungs? Throat. Emily and I had this discussion a while back that my Cheech Marin is essentially my Watto. I mean, space magic is a big part of these movies. You could have titled these movies Space Magic. Sure. But if you title the movie Space Magic and I see people arguing in a giant circular courtroom thing, I'm not going to have a good time. But yes, I think each single entry into the Star Wars saga there's a new element of the Force that's introduced, and you know, if you're fine with one, you got to be fine with all, I guess. Space magic, yes. Are you trying to find a line? Is there that much of a delay? I don't remember his lines at Watto. Nubian, yes. No slave is worth. I forgot. I think I said the line backwards. Don't sell toys from a movie if the movie is about politics. See, now that sounds more like a welcome. What are you buying? What are you selling?
To avoid detection. It's safe and it's fast.
Chicago pizza is bullshit. Don't inflate my ego.
Plan to find a magical underwater craft that would go through the planet's core?
No, that was entirely unexpected.
Or did you just plan to run along the surface?
While avoiding the droid army as well as they could, or possibly stealing some sort of speeder or transport. Yeah, that was probably the plan.
Why don't we know that? Why can't we know that?
What's wrong with your face? This is the first point they should have ditched Jar Jar.
Why? He gave them an incredible offer of safe and speedy transport. Why would they ditch him?
This is also the point when the movie...
Because he could be in harm's way as well?
...starts to officially fall apart.
It does?
Oh man, we're only at this part?
This is the moment when the Star Wars saga is now damaged totally beyond repair.
No, I think it was here.
Hey, sequel. Get the counter ready. I should make a... It's been a lot. It's been a lot of, sequels suck, which, okay, yes, but by that, okay, so you're not really saying the prequels don't suck. You're just saying, yeah, but also sequels, which, sure. What else do you got? Because it's not taking anything away from a video that was made before the sequels existed. So, I don't know, you go back to the well here and do another Plinkett video in this current time frame. Sure, I guess maybe some of it, you just show a poster for The Force Awakens or, show Luke drinking the milk. Like, yep, there you go. There's the joke. It still doesn't dispute the claim at all. Have you seen The Rule of Jenny Penn or The Ugly Stepsister? Two solid horror films this year. I have not. I just hit 25 for the year total, and horror hasn't really been blowing my skirt up. Mickey 17 actually. It's unfortunate that didn't do that well. I really wish Bong Joon-ho had his Inception moment, although I don't know if Mickey 17 should have been his Inception moment, but they're never going to give him money again.
Lapses in common sense and logic begin to compound on the movie, and now it is broken.
How? Nobody has done anything illogical yet.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You haven't proven otherwise.
Everything we've seen has been a momentary reaction to a high-stress situation, and every character seems to be reacting in a way that is both in character and completely logical.
What do we know about their characters? If this is episode 1, the first second, what do we know about their characters? They like to drink tea. We don't know anything about their characters. You cannot... If a film, a standalone film, not a standalone film, a film within a franchise is made well, you don't need to know anything about the other films in the franchise, especially considering that this is number 1. Technically, this is the introduction to these characters. We don't know anything about these characters seconds into it, and we're certainly not, guided through what they are.
Which is impressive given the number of new characters we've only just been introduced to. Each one of them has clearly defined personalities, goals, strengths, and weaknesses. Each of them acts according to those goals and strengths.
What do we know about their goals and strengths? Again, episode 1, first introduced to these characters. What are their goals and strengths? They can cut through doors.
And each of them blunders according to their weaknesses. Qui-Gon is competent, but arrogant, and senses something unusual in the Trade Federation, but isn't careful about approaching the negotiations, which leads to his ship being destroyed, an assassination attempt on himself and his Padawan, and them sneaking aboard an enemy ship to escape.
So he's horrible at handling situations that he's aware of?
Land on the planet, attempt to evade the army, and meet a Gungan who offers them a chance at safe passage underwater.
So he's shitty at planning things.
Where there are no droids, so they follow him. Palpatine recognizes an opportunity to start a serious conflict that reflects badly on Valorum, and attempts to instigate it using the Trade Federation as assassins. Viceroy Gunray feels incredibly pressured by the presence of 2 super beings on his ship, sent by the Republic to force him into a settlement. So out of fear of being arrested by the Jedi and forced to face the wrath of the Republic, he listens to Palpatine and tries to execute the ambassadors, then cover up their deaths to the Queen and the Republic, while staging an invasion on the planet he is blockading.
We know all of that about these characters at this moment?
But his lack of understanding of the Jedi and their capabilities, and his lack of military or assassination experience, leads to them escaping.
What military experience?
Jar Jar Binks almost dies running from the droid army, but is saved by Qui-Gon and feels he owes him a debt, so he offers him a chance at safe passage through Gonga SeaWorld, even if it means breaking his banishment. Obi-Wan listens to his masters.
What do we know about Jar Jar's character at that moment? He's someone who has a survival instinct. What about his character do we know, other than he knows how to get out of the way of a moving tank?
Instructions. Everyone so far has made perfectly rational decisions, motivated by circumstance and their characters. The movie isn't broken at all. In fact, it's pretty damn good so far. We've got an established universe, conflict without an easy resolution.
In one sentence, what is the conflict? In one sentence. It should be pretty. 30 minutes. We should have the introduction of this story. All right, 2 sentences. In 2 sentences, what is the conflict of this story?
And a journey for our heroes to undertake, and well-established characters with no overt dialogue. It's actually pretty impressive.
Why? No overt dialogue? I'm sorry. If anything, there's only dialogue.
Things considered.
I could end this review here.
Please do.
But I'm really just getting started.
Oh, man.
I do have to go to traffic court soon, though. I accidentally ran over a Korean family with my car.
All right, folks, and that's the end of part 3. It's been another wonderful journey. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
What is wrong with your face?
Damn callbacks, running gags. How dare you try to inject humor into my thesis statement? Okay. So I don't know if I discussed this earlier, but there's someone else, and they appear to be heavily against the sequels. A lot of content, and it seems like there's a fiduciary interest in shitting on the sequels at the moment. Which, if you're bothered by Plinkett and other content creators like Plinkett who crap on the prequels that much, you would think you'd kind of refrain from doing that for the sequels, but it doesn't feel like that so much as it's like this boomerang type mentality, like, oh, see, now is my turn to shit on the new thing, where it doesn't always feel like the reason is sincere for why a lot of this rage bait is being produced. Define overt dialogue, like poorly written exposition. I'd like him to explain what he means by that. Join the club. I liked when he had a little diagram. Considering we're covering film, show me what your case is, please. I feel if you're going to defend a film, the focus should be on just the movie, not bring up other films as a rebuttal. I thank you. And yes, films in a franchise, in some regards, you may need to bring up other films in the franchise, but if a film is good, you don't need to discuss those things. If a film is good and stands on its own, it will give you the information you need about the rest in that one film. It's another reason why I say Last Jedi, as its own thing, works. It ends. It's certainly not the middle movie of a trilogy, but it ends and it gives you the information you need for that movie. If you need people to know things about the characters coming into it, you're not doing your job well. It should be a thing where you're giving us information about what the story is at that moment, and people who do have the extra information about characters that have appeared elsewhere, it's like free extra credit. It's Easter eggs for people who have seen the other things. If you know kind of thing. Like, if you're watching The Last of Us or something, and, I know what that means, or just anything that's adapted or part of a franchise. If you need people to watch other things, your story isn't as strong as it should be. I think comparing and contrasting with two films can have value, but he hasn't been doing that. He's just taking shots. And I would think he's assuming that the Plinkett stuff is also just taking shots. But the explanation of what a protagonist is and does is criticism, is valid criticism. Whether or not you agree with it, it's valid criticism. This is how a protagonist works. And here are examples of how it works. To kind of take a piece of the sentence that's claimed and only say, he wants normal people, where you're forgetting the fact that the word normal comes after the environment of space and monsters and weirdos. Just being normal isn't part of the criticism. There have been film criticisms, like the cinematography, the low angle on the opening shot in episode 4, as opposed to just people sitting in a room. It visually, it's not very striking. They're valid criticisms, and if you have valid counter criticisms, that's where it should be most, clear. Like it should be very easy. Like if it's a known truth and it's a objective thing, you should be able to refer to it. And I don't know if that's been happening so much. I do know that this person apparently doesn't like the sequels, and anytime something is poorly written or done in the prequels, Luke drinking milk, which, I'm sold. Okay. Next.
Number 9. If I get a brain aneurysm as the result of this review, can I hold the filmmakers responsible?
Why is this?
At this point, I realize...
Wait. Did I do that? This is backwards. And not that it really matters that much. I hate you, OBS. Flip horizontal? Right? Is that it? Do the words reach?
Eyes to the phantom.
No. Okay. I think I fixed it. Yeah, I did an OBS thing without completely killing everything. I don't know how I did it in the first place.
Number 9. If I get a brain aneurysm as the result of this review, can I hold the filmmakers responsible?
Like, it's a joke sentence, and you're doing a joke meme, like, oh, I'm glad the movies gave you an aneurysm. Like, is what?
At this point, I realize who the Phantom Menace is.
Oh, good. I didn't think it was that complicated, but I'm glad you finally got in there.
No, it's not Jorge. It's Qui-Gon Jinn.
Plinkett, the Phantom Menace is Palpatine. Him being a literal phantom in the opening scene symbolizes that.
We're talking about symbolism now. God bless.
He's an unknown figure pulling the strings to destroy the Republic from the shadows. The title is kind of clever too, because it can mean the threat doesn't really exist, which is the point of the Trade Federation, so it can apply to them as well. It could also refer to the arrogance of the Jedi and their inability to recognize their political failings.
Stop while you're ahead.
Believing that there's some threat out in the ether, when in reality they bring about their own destruction. Qui-Gon is neither a phantom nor a menace. In fact, he's the only character to see past the quagmire of politics and power struggles to focus on doing what he believes is right.
But, no, you're... I don't know how the Phantom Menace applies to the Jedi for this movie. Because they're kind of barely a thing in part 1. Again, speaking of one film.
His character is totally baffling to me, and I do not know why he's in this movie.
Because he's a well-written character.
That's not a defense. He's baffling to me, and the counter being, because he's well-written. How? How is he well-written?
And acts as a foil to the Jedi Council. He acts according to what he believes is the will of the Force, and not other pettier things.
But isn't the Force just all about, like, feelings and shit? So why do the Jedi... Why is there a council for headier stuff when it's more just extra politics?
You are on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master.
This is episode 3!
What?
What does that have to do with fucking Qui-Gon in 1?
He's the only person who actually wanted to save and train Anakin. He's the only character that recognized there was something more sinister in the actions of the Trade Federation.
No, he didn't go out on a limb with Anakin. He got his fucking little PKE meter, whatever the hell that stupid thing, to get the midichlorian count. Like that. It's not, hey, I'm going to go out on a limb. I feel like this is the right thing to do. He had to get a numeric count on just how strong it was. It wasn't like I've got a feeling about this kid. It was, let me take your blood and reduce this space magic thing to math. That's not helping his character.
And he acts as a mentor and guide for the characters and the audience to the world of Star Wars under the rule of the Republic.
What characters is he a guidance for? Oh, I'm bleeding. Oh no. Too much cocaine. Oh no. See what happens when too much Star Wars happens? I have to use the camera as my mirror. That kind of burns now.
He's incredibly unique in this universe, and the story would be significantly worse off without him.
I don't know if that's the case.
If you ask me, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi should have been combined to form a new character called Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan should have been...
Counter? What is your counterpoint? Because the things that make Qui-Gon special, if you just put them on Obi-Wan, is it that much more devastating?
A younger, eager, adventurous Jedi.
Okay. Because that wasn't his character in this movie?
Who found Anakin, formed a bond with him, and then really wanted to train him in the Jedi arts when Yoda told him no.
You have a spectacular capacity to miss the point, Mike. The point of Qui-Gon finding Anakin and bonding with him, and not Obi-Wan, is that Anakin becomes an obligation to Obi-Wan, and Anakin knows it. Anakin escaped a life of slavery thanks to the actions of a man who...
Escaped a life of slavery? With the luck of Qui-Gon and his science meter reading of him that he decided to gamble to help him escape slavery?
Sincerely believed him to be special and wanted to show
not sincerely believed him.
Him how to harness his strengths and become something more. Even though everyone around him told him it was too dangerous. That Anakin was too dangerous.
The boy is dangerous. They all sense it. Why can't you?
His fate is uncertain. He's not dangerous. The Council will decide Anakin's future. That should be enough for you. Now get on board.
When Qui-Gon dies, Obi-Wan takes him on as a Padawan, not because he genuinely wants to, or because he believes in Anakin. In fact, he's just afraid of Anakin as the Council is, probably because the Council is. He does it because he promised Qui-Gon he would. Anakin is an outcast, taken in because the person who actually wanted him died.
Because of what Anakin becomes, it should be much more tragic. It should be much more ironic that Qui-Gon does everything he does for what ends up being the wrong cause. They could have played into the irony, the tragedy of all what he's fighting for. I use that term loosely. But no, that what Qui-Gon is essentially could be extra features about Obi-Wan. I don't know. It's like the promise isn't that big a deal. What about the promise that Obi-Wan makes to Qui-Gon makes you really feel like, oh yeah, this is important.
He knows he isn't wanted by any of the Masters, or even by Obi-Wan, and that plays a major role in his descent into this.
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans, and bring me the passengers. I want them alive!
What about episode 4? Gives us the inform. What about him being Darth Vader? Is Qui-Gon being a well-written character? Anakin being an obligation is part of the problem with the prequels. They have no close relationship until 3, when they are now best friends, but it all happens off screen. Quite the choice. I would agree with that. I think 3 is the best of the prequels. And it's almost like, oh, we're at the finish, we better hurry up. You can get people to invest in and fall for characters without knowing they're going to exist. In the original trilogy, the same can certainly be said for Andor. I know Cassian, knowing what his fate is, it doesn't take anything away from my enjoyment of that series. So why not be a bit more emotionally driving when introducing characters and having it mean something a bit more rather than just an obligation? Like it should have much more weight to it than that. Like if it's Anakin, he's the chosen one. The fact that he ends up being who he is and what happens, you can show us and not tell us. It's done much better in the original trilogy, which is an understatement.
Instead, Obi-Wan, who seemed totally irritated with Anakin the whole movie,
It doesn't matter if this was a high school McQuaid Jesuit.
suddenly wants to train him at the end, only because Qui-Gon said to.
I gave Qui-Gon my word.
Yeah, guys, I'm actually at a loss for words.
Why?
I'm just going to move on.
But
if they did have to have Qui-Gon, they should have had him on the ship, just like meditating the whole movie, saying very little, and just being wise.
No, he should have been the leader because he's the older, more experienced, wiser Jedi.
That's why? Because he's older? That he should have been the leader because age.
Which is what he is. What the fuck?
Then when Qui-Gon dies, Obi-Wan is left to move on without an older, wiser voice of reason,
Oh, that's what happens, though.
thus setting the stage for a poorly trained Anakin.
Okay, because Qui-Gon dies, Obi-Wan takes on a Padawan before he is ready, and his failings lead to Anakin's fall. He fails to recognize the hypocrisy of the Council, he fails to act on Anakin's suffering, and he fails to kill Vader after he's been lost to Palpatine.
So Obi-Wan is a poorly written character then. In the prequels, Obi-Wan's a poorly written character.
That is the main plotline of this movie and this trilogy. What the actual fuck?
No. Qui-Gon is not a part whatsoever of 2 and 3. He's merely part of the introduction to the trilogy.
I thought part 4 was bad, but I'm actually just baffled.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Yeah, George, that's true. But the only thing poetic here is that I was vomiting in stanzas.
What does that even mean?
I don't even know what that means.
Oh. Okay, then.
So for no reason, Obi-Wan is the one who does not want to defy the Council.
What do you mean for no reason? Oh my god, what the hell?
He's not...
Yeah, I don't, like, why make a 8, 9, 7, 10 part series if for every point you're just going to be like, what do you mean? Oh, here's an image of The Force Awakens. Got him. Like, what is this? This isn't much of anything. And they're just reading synopsises no, very clearly, here is the Wikipedia paragraph. Like, yeah, it's great that you found this to read, but like that's not what's in the product itself. I don't know. If anything, it makes me feel like the films are worse.
A risk taker, and he complains all the time like a woman.
We could be stuck here a very long time.
Women. Got him.
Then the older, wiser...
Yeah, so that kind of is on brand for Star Wars criticism, but also it plays into his character. I like that Plinkett is a better written character than Qui-Gon. Hot take, Plinkett is a better written character than Qui-Gon. You know that he doesn't think of women very fondly because how much he talks about his wife and prostitutes. It's kind of established and shown to us. It's even shown to us.
Jedi is the opposite of what he should be.
What the fuck do you mean what he should be? This is a movie. It's a story, not a fucking Mad Lib. You don't fill in the blank character names on the script of the originals with new character names.
No, fucking all fiction is contrived. You have to create things. Yes, it is. It all is contrived. You have to do that.
Kathleen.
Oh.
JJ.
Oh. Sequels. Bingo.
Ryan.
Hey.
George is making something new. Instead of lamenting what should be, why not take the story for what it is? Qui-Gon isn't a wizened old sage.
Wait, what is episode 1 before George does something with it? What is it? It's becoming a bit unfortunate now because the perspective of this person is this is the way it is, not that this is a world that's being created. Like, this isn't real. You have to create things. You have to make the story engaging in some way. And the the statement being presented here by Red Letter Media is it's not done well.
He's a zealot. He's rational and calm, but he is so convinced by his own understanding of the world that he acts on his own will, regardless of the objections of those around him, including queens and councils. He doesn't need to be Obi-Wan from episode 4. He is older and wiser than Obi-Wan in this movie, and he acts like it. But wisdom is not a universal trait. It is expressed differently, sometimes incredibly differently from person to person.
Let's break down Qui-Gon, all the way to his midichlorians.
Are we about to get it on? Because I'm as hard as a diamond in an ice storm right now.
Number one, he has very questionable moral values.
No, he doesn't. His morals are very neatly aligned with the highest good he believes is attainable.
Gambling?
He wants to perform the will of the Force as he understands it, to protect the galaxy from those that wish to do it harm, and to save those he can along the way. He has very questionable ethical values.
So knowing that Anakin wants his mother to go with him, and Qui-Gon is kind of okay to leave her behind, morally speaking, that's okay?
He is willing to do things that are morally good, but ethically bad, in order to achieve the goals he believes in. I know, English is a confusing language, and the difference between morals and ethics is complicated. And Plinkett's not the brightest. He tried. Here's a participation trophy.
Also a character. So, was that saying the creators of the sequels had no original ideas or characters? Isn't the hate usually that it's too focused on new and not the legacy stuff? Don't get me started on the sequels. Of Force Awakens and Last Jedi, they're juxtaposed in their presentation. You cannot hate both. If your main complaint about one is blank, then the other one does the opposite. Like, if you think that Last Jedi is new, this isn't what the characters are, okay, you should love Force Awakens then, because it's essentially everything you love about the original trilogy. It's that gets brought up the most about the sequels that I'm sorry, you can't hate all of them.
Qui-Gon Jinn repeatedly uses his Jedi mind trick to his advantage, whether it's to get Boss Nass to give him a bongo, which they completely trash, to use worthless money to scam Watto out of his ship parts,
credits will do fine,
or to fix a legitimate bet to his advantage.
Okay, well, the last one, that isn't a mind trick, but your point is taken. And yeah, this is called characterization. George Lucas is trying to tell you about Qui-Gon's character through his actions in these moments. Qui-Gon is in a hurry. Vital intelligence needs to be reported to the Senate and the Jedi Council. He knows he doesn't have time to waste arguing the finer points of the Trade Federation's invasion with Boss Nass or haggling with Watto. The fate of the Republic and the actions of the Trade Federation are too important in his eyes, so he does something some would consider unethical in order to accomplish something moral. That's who Qui-Gon is. His ends justify his means.
Anakin's well-being and saving his mother, what does that fall under? Because it seems like he tries to get Shmi as part of the deal, but once she isn't a part of the deal, no slave is worth, or no pod is worth 2 slaves. So, like, at that moment, he could do things for the better of Anakin, but he fails to do that. And also he does that shady gambling shit. He uses the Force for gambling.
It's generally wrong to do these things, wouldn't you say?
Okay, I think that is a significantly more complicated question than anyone realizes. I'm going to break down the Boss Nass situation here a bit, all right? So you have an entire planet's worth of people that is now in direct danger, and the entire Republic in indirect danger. You encounter a new faction, whose leader has the means to aid you on a mission to possibly save that planet and the Republic, including this faction, but his stubbornness about the Gungans' relationship with the Naboo is stalling the process. You know virtually nothing about this culture, and you have no idea how they will react to you or your propositions.
So do we, the audience. We don't have that information either.
You can either continue to try to argue with this creature who is intelligent enough to carry on conversation, but not...
Wait, are we thinking of George Lucas's writing? I wish George Lucas would do that.
so intelligent that reason is guaranteed to be your ally in this debate, wasting time and possibly angering him and the people of the city you're in, putting yourself in a hostile situation without any means of effectively escaping or completing your mission, and leaving potentially billions or trillions to their fate. Or you can use the Force to manipulate this boss nass into lending you a single underwater transport so that you may go and save his life, the lives of his people, and the rest of Naboo. Is it morally wrong to use the Force on him? Probably not, though there isn't a definitive universal answer, and that's one of the major problems with framing your argument as Qui-Gon has very questionable moral values. Everyone has a different set of moral values, and moral values are constantly growing and evolving as we grow and evolve. In this situation, the benefits far outweigh the cost of the manipulation.
I'm dying to know what his perspective is on Luke's moral values and how his character is presented in The Last Jedi. Because there's a lot of work being done for a character we don't have much investment in.
So the motivation behind the action would be moral, and the end result would also be moral if your moral system was to uphold and perform the most good, however you define that. If Qui-Gon killed Boss Nass and took the Bongo by force, it would probably still be morally justifiable from this framework. From my perspective, and that's the only one I can offer, if Qui-Gon were to risk the lives of everything he strives to serve and protect in order to maintain the integrity of this one simple consciousness, that would be immoral. It would be cowardice. Now, is it ethical to mind trick Nass? And by ethical, I mean, is the action itself in line with Qui-Gon's own moral principles? Violating and controlling the consciousness of another living thing for personal gain is something I would consider evil, if we take the action for what it is, without the context surrounding it. I think that almost everyone with a conscience would probably agree that the prospect of having your own thoughts and perceptions altered by anyone without your consent is terrifying, and so performing that action willingly and with knowledge of what you are doing would be unethical.
Man, I wish there was a movie where, like, a person or a team of people went into to change someone's mind about something, or perform inception on someone's ideas, and it were like entertaining and didn't need such a filibuster about, no, I'm sorry, this is just another way for me to say Inception's incredible.
But it is still probably the morally correct thing to do here. Do you see what I mean by this being incredibly complicated?
You can argue that the ends justify the means.
Yeah, I could, but that would take me hours, so I'm not gonna.
Too late.
But if that's the case, then why didn't Qui-Gon just steal the part from Watto?
And somehow we're back to the Jedi committing suicide for fun. What is it with you in doing that?
But you just said that he could kill Boss Nass, or whatever the fuck his name is. Like, if Qui-Gon can kill people I just don't have the investment in this conversation at this point.
Look how big the part they need is. It's made of metal. It operates a hyperdrive that punches a hole into space-time.
All right, so now we're talking about, like, science fiction shit. How do you know how much that weighs?
It's probably very heavy.
Probably. So because we don't know is how people can ask these questions.
And they have to get all the way back to their ship parked on the outskirts, which Anakin points out is pretty far.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you also said that, 4 hours can be just a difference between shots. So what does it really matter?
Have shelter?
We'll head back to our ship.
Is it far?
It's on the outskirts.
You'll never reach the outskirts in time. Sandstorms are very, very dangerous. Come on, I'll take you to my place.
And what are Watto's security measures? Oh, you don't know. Well, neither do I. And neither does Qui-Gon. This is Hutt space, remember?
The Hutts are gangsters.
They will fuck Qui-Gon up if he...
So all you need is a sentence telling you what a thing is to give it the proper respect. Just someone to say, hey, this is dangerous area here. That's all you need. You don't need to be shown any of that.
Gets caught. And if he does get caught, they will catch the Queen and the Naboo. And the Trade Federation will be free to take over Naboo and try to assassinate more political opponents or Jedi Knights. Do you remember when they said this?
Near the outskirts. We don't want to attract attention.
And you complained because they took Jar Jar? I can't imagine a more high-profile way of drawing every eye in the city to you than getting caught committing grand theft. Now, all that said, if Qui-Gon could steal the part without harming himself, the people he is protecting, or the Toydarian, I would probably make the argument that he would do it. I just don't think it's possible here.
He could sneak in the middle of the night and just take the part.
Plinkett, have you heard of something called an alarm?
Have they established that there's alarms in this Hutt-run part of fucking like traders? And I don't know if alarms have been established that that's what should be the main concern.
Might have those.
Might.
Or take it by force.
The Hutts, gangsters, protecting the Queen, not wanting to commit suicide for no reason.
And I don't mean that kind of force. I mean choke Watto while Padme grabs the part and they run out of the shop.
Yeah, or use the force to just take it without people looking. They have the force. Like, this isn't a good...
Basically, it's the same as trying to trick him into accepting a worthless currency for the part.
No. Tricking Watto into taking a worthless currency doesn't land them in a Hutt dungeon necessarily.
Wait, do we know that Watto is attached to the Hutts, where if something happens to Watto, the Hutts will be up someone's ass about it?
Just leaves Watto with a worthless currency.
In the end, Watto's just out of the part. This also leads me to believe that Qui-Gon Jinn is incredibly stupid.
I'm not going to say it. You deserve it, but I'm not going to say it.
He could have just went to another junk dealer and used his Jedi mind trick to swap out the Republic credits for money that Watto would take.
Okay. See, this is a good attempt at criticizing the film. Mike proposed a solution to a problem that is simple. That would help our protagonists and make it easier on them than what they decide to do. Why don't they just do this thing instead? But that is where my praise ends, because this one doesn't hold up to the film for multiple reasons. The first is that Qui-Gon doesn't want to attract attention to the fact that he's from the Republic. Trying to trade Watto for the Republic credits and trying to mind trick him was already a massive risk to his own safety. If he tries again and fails again, it could be potentially deadly for him and the people he's trying to protect. Repeated attempts will paint a target on his back.
How do we know that? This constant probably and could be stuff, you could do that with anything that probably and could be.
You could argue that if he tried it with Watto, he must be okay with that risk, and that he'd be willing to take it again if it meant getting himself off Tatooine. And I'd agree with that, but the situation in the movie doesn't allow it.
See, part of the problem with a lot of like these common sense things that happen within the Star Wars universe more than anything, especially, is, yeah, if you're using mind tricks, why not just use that at all times? Like, if you need to get something done, why not just have someone do whatever the hell you need them to? And this is the case for every single one of the Star Wars movies. Like, within their framework, they need to give you something to, I don't know, within that universe, it needs to still have believability. A suspension of disbelief within the universe needs to exist. But, like, if you're tricking this fucking slave-owning traitor, I don't know how much can be.
As they leave Watto's shop, it's late in the business day because...
What? Now we're talking about office hours? Are you fucking kidding?
Anakin takes Qui-Gon and crew to his house to avoid a sandstorm. There isn't time to try another dealer or to scam someone out of...
That's just the storm of that moment.
Credits. During the sandstorm is when Qui-Gon commits to the pod race plan, again because of a feeling and his faith in the Force.
Well, he didn't know anything about Anakin's anything until just now. He's only hearing about Anakin's pod racer and his ability to drive, and then at that table they hear that he's never won a race or never finished a race. And at that exact table, Qui-Gon decides, hey, yeah, you know what? We're going to put everything we need on this working on Anakin's finishing a race and winning a race. Like, it just shows even more that his character is so flawed.
That's consistent with his character.
Yeah, he's bad. It's flawed. It's consistent with the fact that he's just terrible at decision making. Wah wah wee wah. Multi channel membership, thank you. I like every meme from the prequels. Every meme? I don't know if I know every meme. I'm a Star Wars kid that likes the movies, but also recognizes that there's humor to be had with all of them. Like, they're not flawless movies, and I think the warts is what makes them attractive, personally. But again, full disclosure, no Star Wars movie was like important to my childhood. They were special to me in a different reason. It's not like I had, Star Wars toys growing up. I didn't have any sort of Halloween costumes or pajamas or any of that shit. My relationship with Star Wars is certainly different than a lot of people's. And I was born at a weird time, and I wasn't raised on Star Wars. I only started watching them in my mid to late teens. So I don't have the same investment. And I guess I don't have that much pain, for lack of a better word. I don't have that much pain when someone says something negative in speaking with jest about a thing. I'd take any prequels over the sequels. Sequels are simply unbearable. That is your opinion. You're entitled to it. Why are you doing this to me, CP? My brain cells are on several endangered species lists. Why are you making me risk them by trying to analyze a George Lucas script? I don't know. I'd like to hear a defense of the prequels that counters the Plinkett video, which is satirical. Again, I'll say it again. The Plinkett video on its own is itself a piece of art. Yes, it's got film criticism, but the character of Plinkett gives you a lot of information you need about how much to weigh that opinion, whether or not what he's saying is what you agree with or true. The character's a character. I am curious to hear people who have something to say that I could point to and say, yes, that's in the film. I agree with that. Good job. Good job arguing with, debating, and presenting a great counter case to the fictional character. Good job. Revenge of the Sith was the only good prequel. The OT was gold. Every time I peek my head into these video essays and arguments involving Star Wars and animated shows on YouTube, I feel as confused as someone who skips cutscenes in a Yakuza game. Your reactions to this are worth the price of admission. What, free? Oh, wait, yeah, don't fast forward the ads. Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment that my suffering is worth your entertainment. All right, we continue.
And it happens before he has the chance to make another decision. This is one of the parts of the film where...
Oh, fuck it. So he doesn't think things out. Again, we're just proving just how scattershot the Qui-Gon decision-making in this movie is.
I'm actually conflicted, because during this call with Obi-Wan...
Master, we could be stuck here a very long time.
Well, it's too dangerous to call for help, Milt. A ship without a power supply isn't going to get us anywhere. And there's something about this boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna inject him with the Midichlorian reader, and if it's high, I'm gonna try to gamble with his owner and get him released, but only if it's high, because I got a funny feeling.
If Qui-Gon instead says, I have a plan if this doesn't work, but there's something about this boy, it would make the pod race feel less like an all-or-nothing risk that could potentially doom the galaxy.
Not well. That's the case with any movie where something happens and yet it's not the, I don't know, the completion to the conflict. That can be said for any movie where something happens, they achieve their goal, but there's still more to achieve.
Reassuring the audience that Qui-Gon is actively preparing for a failure or setback. But at the same time, it is definitively in Qui-Gon's character based on everything we've seen so far.
Yeah. He doesn't follow through his decision making. Very, very well thought out. Yeah. He's a poorly written character. Yes, it's within his character that he's poorly written and doesn't give the audience a perspective of a stoic person.
To believe so stridently that he is right and that the Force is guiding him here and that he would bet everything he has on just...
If the Force was guiding him, why would he need to take the little fucking midichlorian count? Stop it.
This feeling, and then react to the situation as it happens. He probably doesn't even consider this a gamble. It's just what he is supposed to do, and he knows it. So much so that his Padawan even calls him out for it when they...
Is that a good movie for you? When the thing starts and the character's like, hey, I'm right. I know I'm right because, it's destined to be. Do you watch that film to the end like, oh, man, this is going to be cool. I know how it's going to end because he's already said exactly how it's going to play out, but I can't wait to see it. You like a film giving you spoilers before it even sets off? Do you like films without conflict? If you know what's happening, what is the conflict?
Get to Coruscant.
It's not disrespect, Master. It's the truth.
From your point of view.
My point is, this was an actual attempt at criticism, and I appreciate that, Plinkett.
For fuck's sake.
I actually had to think about the argument for the first time in 5 parts.
No. You haven't been doing arguments. No. Showing picture of Luke drinking milk from a film 17 years after the fact is not an argument.
It's still not a flaw with the film.
And
oh. Multi $2 super chat. Thank you. I gotta go. Have a good rest of the evening. And you as well. Evening. It's gotta be like daytime for you. But thank you and cheers.
In fact, when they arrive in town, he says,
we'll try one of the smaller dealers.
Smaller dealers? Well, that implies there's larger ones. Watto tells him he's the only guy in town who's got the part.
And no one else has a T-14 hyperdrive, I promise you that.
Well, either Watto is using an older-than-dirt sales tactic, or Qui-Gon can really pick out which shop to go to randomly.
It's both. They pick a smaller dealer because Qui-Gon hopes to manipulate them into giving him the part, while staying as low profile as possible. He doesn't go to another dealer in the movie because of the sandstorm, and by the time it's over, he has a plan to get what he needs from the guy he knows has the part. It limits his exposure, and the Force is basically shining a giant spotlight on Anakin, telling him that the boy is special and can help him.
Well, thank God he had the Midichlorian reader, because, you know, if it was just the Force telling him, he probably would have just gone with it and not double-checked. Or you could have had something like Obi-Wan saying, hey, why don't you check around and just give us the idea that, oh, you know what, Qui-Gon really feels a certain way. He's being guided in his decisions here.
It doesn't matter if it's a sales tactic or even if it's true.
It doesn't.
What matters is Qui-Gon confirmed that the part was there.
Oh, wait. I guess Midichlorians told him where to go so they could find the boy. Oh, it was Destiny or something.
Some people don't like Destiny when it's in a story because it can be incredibly contrived and used as a lame story tool by shit.
All stories are contrived!
The authors. Well, you see, it said here it was fate, so it had to happen this way, even though none of the characters would do this, and it makes no sense. Completely fair criticism. But that isn't what happens here. Is it contrived that Anakin just happens to be in this shop on this planet working at this time so Qui-Gon can find him?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
But all fiction is contrived. It's in the definition of the word.
Brilliant! Brilliant! Now keep going.
Is everything that happens in this story consistent with the rules of the universe and with the characters on screen and with the story being told? Yeah, it is.
Now, consistence and contrivance are different.
So the contrivance of this one plot point is not functionally detrimental.
I'm fine. I'm fine. Relax. Everything's fine. No pain here.
To the film. It doesn't make the story being told unbelievable or impossible like some stories. It all makes sense. This is...
But if all things have contrivances, why would you feel the need to point out when it doesn't work for you? Because all fiction is contrivance. So you know that. So why cherry pick?
The story of how Anakin was found by the Jedi Order. Straightforward.
The conflict is that for 3 movies, Natalie Portman is grooming Anakin before our very eyes. Can't you see? Trilogy is brilliant.
Logically consistent and a little bit lucky.
Hey, here's another idea. Why don't you trade the Naboo cruiser for a less fancy but functional ship?
He did it again, by the way. I can't believe it. So I went back to find clips of Qui-Gon haggling with Watto so I could talk about the mind trick, right? Because he mentions it, and it's kind of important, and it does a lot of cool stuff for Qui-Gon's character. And I found out that Watto says this.
It would be cheaper, I think, huh?
Now, that is the movie explicitly acknowledging that getting a ship would be cheap, but Qui-Gon doesn't think it's safe and won't do it.
You don't see a problem with that? That Qui-Gon, yet again, has made the wrong decision?
This is directly answering your question, Mike. Please pay
now it's Mike.
Attention to the film. There are so many reasons I don't even know where to start. The ship is inoperable without a hyperdrive. It would be like trying to sell a car with an engine that doesn't start. Basically, you can make a couple bucks for the scrap metal and the parts that do work. Even if it...
So there are movies that do things like this, like Psycho. I hate to bring up Hitchcock in a discussion about Star Wars, the prequels of all things. But, for the sake of Getaway, they trade a perfectly working car for a different car for the sake of Getaway. If you sat in your chair in silence for 5 minutes, then I'm sure it would be more humorous than any of this dude's humor attempts in the points of defense rant. That's a very valid observation, Jacob, and yet her chemistry with Hayden Christensen is still uncomfortable. Dude, yeah. Like, I think I would have a bit more respect. Like, it's very clear that the prequel movies mean something way bigger to this person. That's fine. But don't try to tell me that objectively they're good films, because you're doing a lot of work for these things.
It was enough for an entirely new ship. What would you do with all the Naboo fugitives that you are actively trying to keep hidden and all the Queen's belongings on the ship? They have
the Queen's belongings? We're more concerned with the Queen's belongings than just being alive.
Have to be transported to the new ship, and anyone who gets a good look at them might recognize them and tell the Hutts. That could be potentially disastrous. What if you buy a new ship after selling this one and that one doesn't work?
But the Queen's belongings.
You transport all the Queen's people into the new ship and get lucky that no one recognizes you or draws any attention to you, and then the new ship just doesn't turn on. Now you're stuck in a spaceport of a dangerous town run by a criminal enterprise and gangsters with a bunch of Republic credits and the exact same problems that you had before, but even less security. This is such a terrible idea, and right after you had such a good one. That is depressing.
Is it?
Or maybe hire a transport.
What about the Queen's entourage? Did you forget they exist? What if the ship captain or the smuggler goes to the Hutts, who they definitely do business?
Oh, using the special edition footage. That's a choice.
With. Why else would they be here? And tells them about this really strange transport crew he's picked up. What if he sells you out just because he can?
Pay them all the money you have now and then promise more when you get to...
What? Yes, if he sells them out, that too is conflict. Conflict is good.
To Coruscant.
But this isn't just an old man and a farm boy Qui-Gon needs to transport here. It's an entire royal escort. Using a smuggler ship is so insanely dangerous.
Sound familiar? Someone who's like a transport ship captain or a smuggler would have use for Republic credits because they travel around the galaxy.
See, so the point here is Plinkett's basically saying, you've done it before. You nailed it the first time you did it. Why are you doing it this way this time? Like, you struck gold the first time. Why are you trying again?
Probably go to other spaceports.
They could use the Republic money. You know what else they could use?
I'm glad I'm largely a cold person who doesn't put much stock in nostalgia. I can't imagine going this hard to defend bad movies I once liked as a kid. Yeah, I think the Friday kids seem to think that I'm a lost cause, but for a reason similar to that. I don't know. Being nostalgic and critical are very different things. I don't think you can incorporate both effectively, at least.
The Queen's escort as hostages for blackmail, maybe for Hutt credits. That would probably be pretty lucrative, actually.
You know, makes sense. But instead of using like the most common sense approach to everything...
Common sense is a meme. There is no such thing. And the approaches you've laid out would get them all killed or worse.
Now don't argue for fucking 2 hours plus now about what probably makes sense and then like nope. That is hypocrisy.
There's no easy solution to their problem. They have to take a gamble, one way or another.
Qui-Gon concocts some kind of convoluted scheme so that we could get to the pod race.
It's not convoluted. He offers to front a pod and his ship as the entry fee to sponsor Anakin in the race.
But Anakin doesn't have the pod. Like, he's betting with something he doesn't have.
Watto offers him a 50-50 split of the winnings, so Qui-Gon counter-offers Watto with fronting the entry fee and keeping all of the winnings except for the parts that he needs to repair his ship, and then offers his ship as collateral. He then ups the bet, offering Watto his pod for Anakin and his mother's freedom. Watto refuses to give up 2 slaves for a pod, so Qui-Gon lowers it to just Anakin. It's actually relatively straightforward as bets go. You front the cash, I supply the hardware and the collateral. And he does this instead of stealing the part or trying to mind trick some other dealer, because he believes completely that Anakin is the chosen one to bring balance to the Force.
He believes that completely. He knew that prior to having dinner at Anakin's place and finding out that Anakin races pods and has never finished a race, let alone won one. Really? See, this is where the common sense claim would kind of push up against that a bit.
And he basically confirmed that with Anakin's blood sample.
Oh, good, the blood sample. Yay. Yay, Jedi science. Thank God for math.
In his mind, he isn't making a bet. He's being guided to success by the power of the
Then why use the stupid fucking thing for the blood?
Force, and not without good reason.
I honestly still don't understand it.
My ship will be the entry fee.
What would the boy ride? He smashed up on my pod in the last race.
Smashed up on my
I've
pod.
acquired a pod in a game of chance.
So, you supply the pod and the entry fee.
If it's going to be 50-50, I suggest you front the cash for the entry.
I supply the boy. We split the winnings 50-50, I think, huh?
You keep all the winnings minus the cost of the parts I need.
So, you supply the pod.
We lose. You keep my ship.
You know, if you confusingly mash a bunch of disconnected lines from any scene together, from any movie this way, they're going to sound stupid and confusing. Because you're playing clips over top of each other out of sequence.
Yeah, this is comedy. This is how comedy works. And I'm of a certain mind to think that this is lying to a certain perspective. This is satire. It is a narrative to help the joke. That's like the music underneath is letting you know that this is done for humorous effect.
Here's the scene.
So, you supply the pod and the entry fee. I supply the boy. We split the winnings 50-50, I think, huh?
If it's going to be 50-50, I suggest you front the cash for the entry. If we win, you keep all the winnings.
Wait a minute. So he uses the Jedi mind trick with this very person. Why not just get the terms right up front with the Jedi mind trick?
Minus the cost of the parts I need. And if we lose, you keep my ship. Either way, you win.
Grumbling continues.
Deal.
It's not that complex when you watch it without taking acid first.
Who was betting what?
Qui-Gon bets his ship for the entry fee and the cost of the parts to repair it. Watto bets the entry fee and the hyperdrive for the ship. If Anakin loses, Watto gets Qui-Gon's ship. If Anakin wins, Watto gets the winnings from the race minus the cost of the hyperdrive.
Also, Qui-Gon is gambling a ship that he doesn't have, or a pod that he doesn't have, using stolen parts from the slave boy. You get to keep my ship and your accent. I liked Phantom Menace when I saw it at 5 years old. As I got older, I realized it's bad. This isn't art, man. I'm eager. I'm eager to hear how it works, because at some point I do go back to it. So like, what is it? Is it just my affinity for the Star Wars franchise? Is it nostalgia? Even though I saw this at a time where it didn't really strike like that. I always thought you were supposed to watch this on acid. Didn't George Lucas write it on acid? Oh, he thought he was serious, that comedy bit? Oh, Lord. Don't show him a review by Your Movie Sucks. Ralph the Movie Maker or Red Letter Media. Or he might have a brain seizure. Yeah. He said Plinkett a bunch, but now he said Mike recently. And if you know there's a difference between Mike Stoklasa and Plinkett, you know that Plinkett's a character, and that's troubling. Because it seems like for the sake of your narrative, you don't know who Plinkett is when it fits. But when you do know that it's Mike, then it works for that. Which is, it's fine. It's just hypocrisy is all.
How does this confuse you?
Then it gets more complicated.
It's not like it's just complicated for a 7-year-old kid, which I guess it's not. The silly music is to help accentuate the point that it's a little convoluted.
Later, when the bet changes,
I'll take that bet. I'll wager my new racing pod against, say,
Well,
the boy and his mother.
your pod is worth 2 slaves.
No pod.
Boy then.
More complicated? He bet Anakin's pod for Anakin's freedom. Because Watto believes it's his pod.
so Anakin built the pod, but Watto didn't know that he built the pod, so that he raced with Watto's.
What the fuck is happening? Plinkett? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm not investing any of this.
Don't take anything the time goblins try to give you. It's a trap.
Pods.
Is it Gen X failing to understand the nostalgia of later generations? Is it? It is a counter question. Is Gen Z failing to understand that people can love things and still make fun of them? Counter question. Does Gen Z not realize that you can kind of take jabs at things that you still enjoy, but it's kind of a, hey, I acknowledge this thing sucks, but I like it. It's almost like an ironic way of saying, don't tell anyone, but this thing sucks. If Qui-Gon is such a rebel who defies the council and is willing to cheat here, why not just say, give me the boy, his mom, and the parts before I saber your nuts off? I don't have an answer for that because it seems pretty sound. Used to like the pod race scene as a kid, ages horribly as an adult, besides how wonky and how messy it was. There was nothing for me in the tone and stakes with how it was filmed and edited. Ralph the Movie Maker. Haven't thought about him for a minute. I remember liking his Man of Steel video. The young actor's casual movement while doing stuff mid-race that's supposed to be intense made it weak too. It was like a POV of someone messing around in a bad VR car game. When I watched it at 12, I liked the pod race and the trio lightsaber fight, but I remember being bored in between. Likewise, and I wasn't even 12. No, I think it's generational gap of understanding sarcasm. All right, fair. Something that how do I word this? I think recently that I've discovered people on the spectrum don't seem to recognize that things said sarcastically are meant to be just humorous. And I'm not saying that this person's on the spectrum, but something I've noticed in the last couple of years is something that's said, sarcastically or ironically. It's not getting picked up, and it's being treated as sincerity. And I don't know. It especially when you read things without tone on the internet, the communication gets very muddy. Not everything is supposed to be taken literally. It's a good question, but I don't know the answer. Well, the mystery continues. Did George Lucas really think he would get away from the Jewish caricature by dressing it up as a CGI alien? It's not a matter of understanding nostalgia. It's about not allowing nostalgia to influence the point that you tie yourself in knots trying to defend trash. People making fun of stuff in movies they love with fandoms seems to be dying with how film, Twitter, and YouTube acts now. Yeah, I kind of wish having fun with a thing you love could just be that. This is what doesn't work, and and let's laugh and have fun with it. Film Twitter, actually, I haven't been on film Twitter very much recently, but the community as a whole is kind of not the greatest to talk about something that we're supposed to all enjoy. Nevertheless, I'm enjoying your critique of a critique of a critique. There should be one critique missing in that definition there, because have you spoken about the Jason universe stuff, Charles? Oh, no. But do you want me to genuinely speak about it the way, like, it just doesn't work? Or do you want me to buy in and be like a fanboy about it? I don't know if I could mentally buy into it to sell you on something that I myself don't believe. Because I'm of the mindset that if they do the Crystal Lake show, I'd like it to be about Pamela. And mostly, if not all, about Pamela. That is a very unpopular opinion. The more and more we get away from the most recent Friday the 13th movie, the more I'm like, just let it die. Just leave it. Just leave it. There's nothing left. But if you're asking if I could do something that I don't completely believe, I don't know if I can. Especially with this guy right here. I want you to genuinely speak about it. I don't want to be and can't be sold shit. Yeah, I'm not against it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against it. It's just I think what I need from the Jason universe is something that catches heat in one way, shape, or form. Like, I don't know, if they recast Jason as a black trans person, then and the internet will go crazy, and then I can just kind of piggyback on that and just speak to something that's somehow modern and relevant. Are you a hockey fan because of Jason or a Jason fan because of hockey? I'm neither. I don't know what got me into hockey, but it wasn't Jason. Although The Mask, there was... Actually, I played goalie, so... I played goalie, but I never wore a Jason mask, so... The Jason universe, fingers crossed for the Jandor TV series.
Then Anakin tells if Watto wins, Anakin tells Qui-Gon to pretend that it's his pod. And Watto says, I'm going to put up the entry fee if you let me use your pod.
Yeah, so the takes and the overlap is done for comedic effect. What hockey team do I cheer for? Right here, the team that's not playing anymore, the New York Rangers. As of right now, I think I'm rooting for Edmonton because I don't want either Florida or Carolina to win. And I guess whoever comes out of the West is who I'm rooting for. But Edmonton, McDavid is quite awesome, and I think the best. They deserve to have a championship at least once in their career. I'm a Texas Rangers fan.
Win, then the boy they get the money for the part, but if they lose, then Watto keeps the pod and the boy. Qui-Gon would have to pay back the Republic credits. Oh wait, no, he bet the ship. He bet the ship, and then if he loses the pod race, then Watto gets the ship in exchange for putting up the credits. Oh wait, no, Qui-Gon wins, then he gets the prize money. But then later on, they throw the boy.
Like, he's not saying anything here. He recognizes that this is done for effect, right? Like, he has to.
Boy, actually into the deal. First it's the ship versus the pod, and the mom in the bed. So then, if Watto wins, I don't know. If Qui-Gon...
I lost everything.
Whenever you gamble, my friend, eventually you lose.
Dude, you gotta lay off the hard stuff. It doesn't agree with you. Ship for entry fee. The pod for the boy. Simple as.
Number 10.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that. How did he lose everything if Anakin won? No. I think the idea of Pamela-driven show with Linda Cardellini as in the role has potential, but the showrunner is a huge downgrade, and I doubt he'll end up making something good. Yeah, I mean, I won't tell you that I'm not going to watch. I will watch, but I don't have much hope. I guess I'll go with Dallas for Joe Pavelski. Is he still playing? I was an Oilers fan growing up. Yeah, well, I think we all agree that no team from Carolina needs to be succeeding in anything. And Florida, you've had your chance. Enough. Let the West have some fun.
Anakin Skywalker.
What?
No one likes little kids.
I do. I've helped raise like 8 newborns in my life, and I'm only 25.
What?
None of them were even mine, but I still don't dislike kids.
Especially ones that can't act.
Perisket?
Cut. Let's try it again.
That isn't fair. Jake Lloyd wasn't an amazing actor, but he did just fine. I have a 9-year-old brother, and he has all these little quirks and speech patterns that make him sound like a campy actor.
Yeah, I think this is revisionist defense here happening.
That's how kids are. Hell, Lloyd even had some really great moments in this movie, too.
What would the boy ride? He smashed up my pod in the last race. To take some long time to fix it.
It wasn't my fault, really. Saboba flashed me with his Vince. I actually saved the pod. Mostly.
There are acting issues, sure.
I don't want you to race. It's awful. I die every time Woody makes you do it.
Anakin has a couple of them, but he doesn't ruin this film. He's cute, and he's a little kid who's obviously trying his best.
Yes, no kid deserves what Jake Lloyd got. I would say no fictional character needs to have their real life actor deal with any of that terrible stuff. But you want Darth Vader to be cute? Like, if you're going to make Darth Vader cute, you got to make the turn be quite effective.
I'm a person, and my name is Anakin.
That isn't even bad acting. What are you doing?
It's a kiss of death for your movie.
Why?
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Okay, that one's pretty bad. Not just the acting.
That's why then that your humorous joke gets answered like immediately.
This is the most stunted expository dialogue in the entire movie. It would be hard to make that line sound natural the way it was written for anyone, but yeah, it's not good.
So who's responsible for that line again? Is it Jake Lloyd or is it the writer? Would you say that's a poorly written line?
The way they have it is that Anakin and his mom live in a comfy little hut, and if they leave, there's a bomb in their brain.
Any attempt to escape,
And they blow you up. Boom!
Okay, well, look, see, that one was pretty good. Little kids don't grasp the weight of the consequences of these things. They just accept them and then make them something more manageable for their own understanding.
Oh, see? They get told something and they just accept it. Like some people. You just get told something and you accept it as fact and or good.
And Jake's acting here is like really good, actually. That line is delivered with a surprising amount of vivaciousness. He's a little kid who thinks explosions are cool.
I think that's the...
Like, this is probably the most uncomfortable I felt about the defending, like 50 yards over what I would consider normal fandom. Like, this is an overreach.
Worst plot device ever shoved into a movie for convenience.
That's not a plot device.
Any technique in a narrative used to move the plot forward. Anakin is being used to move the plot forward. Sure he is.
It's never relevant to the plot at all.
Anakin's character is never relevant to the plot. Anakin is never relevant to the plot. The film where the series is called by the creator, episodes 1 through 6 are called the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker. So he's not relative to the plot? Are we sure?
It's world building, if it's anything. And even then, it's basically just a throwaway line to establish that the slaves are free to move around the city. But if they try to...
The character's a plot device.
Flee, there are countermeasures.
What purpose did Shmi Skywalker serve to Watto?
Mike, you're putting me in a position here where I have to explain
Just do it.
The value of slavery. I do not appreciate that. Shmi provides free labor to Watto. That can be all kinds of tasks that would make Watto's job as a junk trader easier. From cleaning his shop to buying his groceries or taking out his trash. That's valuable. And wealthy people pay ridiculous amounts of money to have maids or butlers do it for them because of its value. You don't need to pay slaves, so you just get that service for free.
But she cleaned her own dishes?
And his trash and his shop and her house and the parts in the shop.
Do we know she was doing any of that? I thought it was just Anakin that was his slave. And she happened to be his mother who wasn't with anyone to create Anakin.
I feel like explaining this is a waste of my time and yours, but he obviously didn't understand it.
You're putting me in a position where I have to explain the value of slavery. All good rants start this way. I think I do need to have the value of labor explained to me. Please elaborate. Are we talking about the legend of Watto?
So I feel like I have to.
Oh, and then let's move on to this. What about the idea that Anakin is the one who built C-3PO?
What about it?
Wait. Oh. This is wrong for so many reasons.
This is going to be one of those things where he just says it and then moves on from.
So I don't think he says it. But the implication that C-3PO isn't just a creation by this very talented young boy, but more just another line in, he's essentially a Toyota and not this grand creation by Anakin, is a backhanded shortcut, just trying to connect to the original trilogy. I might be wrong.
Isn't it?
I'm going to list 3 of them.
Oh, neat.
So the idea is that Anakin built C-3PO to help his mom around the house.
Yeah, having a droid around to do some of the more menial tasks and help with translating machine languages at a junk trader would...
What? So why do you need a slave if you have droids?
Probably be really helpful.
He's a protocol droid to help Mom.
But a protocol droid is typically used for etiquette and protocol.
I suppose you're programmed for etiquette and protocol.
Mm-hmm. See this droid? It's bringing the diplomats tea. That's etiquette. You know what services a slave with limited technical skills would probably provide? Delivering tea. Or something similar.
Do you see very many people drinking tea? That Anakin would need that just in his room under a blanket? A lot of tea being served at the slave Skywalker household?
The droid could probably also speak to the robotics that speak languages Shmi or Watto do not.
What I really need is a droid who understands the binary language of moisture evaporators.
Evaporators? Sir, my first job was programming binary load lifters, very similar to your evaporators in most respects.
Can you speak Bocce?
Of course I can, sir. It's like a second language to me. I'm as
All
fluent
right,
in...
shut up. I'll take
It has a lot of uses here. That's why Owen wanted one.
Yeah, we're working backwards to make it fit into the original trilogy. Bad.
They're basically like robot diplomats.
No, the fuck they are not. What the fuck are you talking about? And why did you just play the scene of the robot doing menial labor? Right? Look at it. It's delivering tea. Can you think of anyone else who might have to deliver tea during her day-to-day?
It's not really very handy technically.
Yes, they are. That's why Owen wants one.
Hello, I am C-3PO Human Cyborg Relations.
It says his human cyborg relations. He doesn't say cleans dishes.
But he could. He isn't incapable of it.
C-3PO is clumsy, awkward, and useless, unless you need someone to translate a language.
Or if you needed a neutral actor to do some reconnaissance, maybe deliver some tea.
So little slave Anakin wants someone to do recon or deliver tea? What are we talking about here?
I'm not much more than an interpreter.
And that would still be very useful for a tech or junk trader.
Plus his arms don't even bend. What the fuck is he supposed to help them?
Jacob says you've got your house droids and you've got your field droids. Such a fascinating depiction of slavery. These are 5-star films. C-3PO is basically everyone with a university degree. Yeah, and Anakin just built him. Just built him from scratch.
A mom with.
He could still like push a vacuum around or something, but his uses are probably elsewhere.
A vacuum would have been a better thing to build.
Yeah, I did it again.
Liar!
Or maybe a vibrator.
From her 9-year-old son? I don't care if that's a joke. That's fucking gross.
All right.
As it seems like the only action Shmi was getting was with the Force. Hey, maybe that's why they call it the Force. Ah, rape jokes. I love them.
Yeah, but sometimes they come on a little bit strong.
Also, if you're a little boy with the knack for building things with spare parts, then why would you build the exact same droid that seems to have been mass-produced by a manufacturing plant somewhere?
Okay, you're not dumb. I know it. You can figure this out. Junk trader's slave. Mass-produced robot. Please, put 2 and 2 together here.
Knack for building things isn't knack for repairing things.
Wouldn't you build some kind of unique robot from your own imagination?
No, you would restore one of the junk bots Watto has in the back of his shop here.
Yeah, that is just repair.
Obviously.
And to add to that, Watto already owned a protocol droid. It's laying there in the garbage dump. Why not just fix that one? Oh, we're still on this.
What? I don't understand Gen Z comedy. What? You gonna let us know why that's funny?
Planet, are we? So Qui-Gon manages to pull off the most convoluted bet ever.
Like, how many of these sighing memes do you have? Edgy jokes.
And somehow wins everything except for Anakin's mother. Even at the end of the movie, when they save the day and probably could get the cash to buy the mom from Watto, they don't go back for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
The only person that would be willing and able to do that would be Qui-Gon Jinn. And he's dead. The rest that are able are Jedi Knights. And there are like 200 reasons they don't.
So Obi-Wan, who took the ride with Anakin, wouldn't have heard from Anakin that, hey, my mom's still back there, and here's part of what happened. It's a secret, so much of a secret that Anakin, in the next movie, goes all the way back to his home planet to avenge things.
They don't want to cause a conflict with the Hutts. If they free this slave, how can they justify not freeing all the other slaves?
You do it on the hush-hush. Because they already freed one slave. They already did it once.
Anakin, who they believe is a threat to them, has a personal attachment to this woman, so they don't want him going anywhere near her. She tells Anakin to never come back. Padme can't do it because her planet uses exclusively Republic currency, plus she's kind of naive about the way the galaxy works.
I can't believe there's still slavery in the galaxy. The Republic's anti-slavery laws are...
The Republic doesn't exist out here.
I can keep going. I'm not even close to done. But you get
That's enough for you?
the point. It's not as easy as just go back and free her. There are obstacles that would need to be dealt with first.
Number 10. On to planet number 3. Is it time for death yet?
You can't kill me that easily.
Welcome to Coruscant.
I don't... Is the presentation here post hoc that someone 16 years in the future was going to be the reason that Plinkett, a fictional character, has issue talking about the prequels?
Home of the mid-air collision and boring scenes. So the queen waits around for some kind of approval or for something to stop her people from dying. Why are they dying?
You can't be serious. We're back to that?
I guess they're dying though.
The Trade Federation have blockaded their planet of external resources.
For the love of fucking hell.
I didn't see anyone die. In fact, I haven't even seen any Naboo citizen at all.
What about these ones?
As far as I know.
What? Droids are Naboo citizens?
It's a city with 20 or so pilots, a couple of bureaucrats, and officials.
Oh, there's some.
Then the queen gets impatient. She asks for a vote of no confidence and then decides to go back to Naboo to fight a huge invasion force alone.
That wasn't in this movie. I don't know what movie you watched.
Don't talk about things that aren't in a movie. Mister, here's another shot of The Last Jedi.
But it wasn't this one.
Then the Jedi Council tells Qui-Gon that he cannot start training Anakin, but he does it anyways.
I'm not allowed to train you, so I want you to watch me and be mindful.
Yeah, he knows training Anakin is the right thing to do, so he defies the leaders of his religious order to do it without their consent.
Why does he know? What does he think's going to happen by doing it without the permission?
Because Qui-Gon is
a man of focus, commitment, and sheer fucking will.
Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon both talk about how Anakin is dangerous when he's standing right there.
The boy is dangerous. They all sense it. Why can't you?
Oh God, I hope we didn't hear that. Did he heard that?
That's the point. That's why he's in the background of this shot. It wasn't an accident. He knows the only person who actually wants him here is Qui-Gon.
Hey, a good filmmaker would show you his reaction so that it registers with him. A close-up, some coverage, a shot of Anakin being kind of surprised that he just heard that. There have been plenty of films where something has happened, where someone's heard something said about themselves where they probably shouldn't have heard it. But we get to see their reaction. But they can't defy the council to liberate a woman from slavery. Sure. You don't. That's common sense shit.
And he knows he's becoming a burden to him very quickly.
So then George Lucas completely and utterly finally ruins Star Wars forever by having Qui-Gon explain that the Force is microscopic organisms.
Midichlorians are a microscopic life form that resides within all living cells.
A lot of people complain about this. I don't get it. First, the Midichlorians are not the Force. They're separate. So the nature of the Force is unchanged.
No.
They are a conduit of the Force.
No.
I mean, if they were deterministic, I guess that would be kind of lame. But explaining how the Force functions in this universe as a biological mechanism really isn't that strange. The popular theory is that midichlorians are attracted to the Force-sensitive life forms and that they conglomerate in large...
No. The fact that... The Force was more almost a theism. This religion, it's everywhere. It had some whimsy to it in the original trilogy, reducing it to kind of keeping it in the religious aspect. If you were to tell people that they don't have enough Christ points in them, it kind of makes religion seem a little less special. It's more about what the number within a person is, and
numbers to allow these life forms to feel the Force and utilize it. George never really went into detail, though, because of the backlash. But the idea is interesting. No idea how it destroys Star Wars.
If it was interesting, why was it passable in the first three movies? And by the first three, I mean the original trilogy. Why was there no need to fill us in on the midichlorian count? People said it's everywhere. It's just kind of use the force. Nobody needed to hear, but how many midichlorians do you have? It worked. It was fine. It wasn't broke. He tried to fix it. It made it broke-er. Jar Jar apologists. Isn't that exactly what the Roman Catholic Church said during the Dark Ages? Oh, well, I don't know. I clearly my Christ count is low. It doesn't make it good.
What are the odds Mike tells us why? I'm taking bets.
Or that microscopic organisms in our cells tell us about the Force, or something.
At least he recognizes that he has no idea what he's talking about, but he's just going to complain about it anyways.
This entire idea and why this is in the movie is so baffling to me that I cannot even wrap my mind around it. It was never even explored or mentioned in the following two films.
I can't imagine why that might be.
So, when was this article written? Is this from the year 2001? I can't read that. Am I able to make this larger? December 15th, 2017. So George Lucas stopped using something in the year 2002 because an article was written in 2017. The Star Wars universe contains all kinds of fantastical elements that help establish it as one of the richest and most imaginative stories in science fiction. Sometimes these elements are clearly defined in a way that makes Star Wars seem as though it could occur in an actual galaxy far, far away. Other times, these pieces aren't explained as thoroughly and become more mysterious and compelling. This is the case with midichlorians. Midichlorians are an attempt to explain the spiritual and all-encompassing concept of the Force, but fans are still unsure how exactly to take it as a concept within the universe. Yeah, so unsure. What is the point? If Lucas had a good point, wouldn't people know? Like, the fans trust him at the Force is just vibes, bro. But then when he tries to make it a bigger deal and say, actually, it's a midichlorian count, and then doesn't go to it again, and the fans are like, wait, what happened? What is the defense then?
I could really only sum it up with one visual image.
He has such a way with words.
I feel so enlightened. Obviously, midichlorians suck. What was I thinking? It all makes sense now.
Finally, we come to the stupid ending, where again nothing makes sense. After hours of boring, passion...
I don't know. Who's the youngest one here? Does just playing anime clips while just kind of reacting exasperated, does that like work as an argument or a joke or what? I'm not really into anime. I think my education is quite small, limited. But what am I supposed to be getting from that? Is it funny? Is it informative? Is it an argument? He used the goose honk rebuttal. I don't... Richest stories in fiction. Didn't George Lucas admit to blatantly ripping off Kurosawa? And other things. C-3PO is an homage to Metropolis. Fritz Lang, Westerns, old serials. Star Wars is a fiction melting pot. Yeah.
Inhuman, robot-like, sleep-inducing dialogue. Jar Jar Binks screams in excitement that he's going home.
Come on, R2.
This was actually the most shocking part of the whole movie, because at this point you forgot you were a human being. Oh, that's right, I'm still alive, and I'm watching a movie, I guess. Wait, did something happen? Continued in part 6.
If I develop alcoholism as a result of this review, can I hold Mike responsible?
It's funny because that's what Mike said earlier. Yeah, okay. So this has been 5 parts? 5 parts? And I don't know if there's very many cases at all that have been presented. The most consistent case is, yeah, well, the sequels suck. And that's done through images. There's something else that I was suggested and other things that I'd like to cover and discuss and react to. But again, for people that have such an issue with Plinkett, the Plinkett character and the Plinkett content, I'm not getting swayed away from either the fact that it's wrong or the Phantom Menace works, or that the character of Plinkett, the satirical presence doesn't work. But there's a lot of people that like have counterpoints or debate presentations, and there's not much to go through. It's interesting because the amount of stuff that is out there to explain why The Last Jedi does not work is plentiful. It's just odd that there isn't. I don't know why it hinges on being a counter to Plinkett, and we discussed this last time. It's about getting the attention of one of the most, if not the most watched prequel video. But you would assume that if someone presented their case and was quite supported, that it would garner attention eventually. Wait, there's been 5 parts? 5? Yeah, there's more too. I don't know if we're halfway done, but we're about halfway done. About. So much time, and altogether he's made like 2 good points over these 5 videos. Granted, I've been in and out. Maybe a stellar argument was made when I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, and to be fair, he's talked about things, like he's given you descriptions of things that I don't know how much is his perception or doing extra work with like TV series or books or whatever. But again, if you're grading the first film, if you're grading Phantom Menace based on it being a standalone thing, the information he's talking about is not present in that movie. It's not. It just, I want to know how he received that information that he's regurgitating. And again, in the sci-fi fantasy adventure genre, that's not what these movies are supposed to be. And again, if you're of the fan base that thinks the original trilogy is Star Wars, at the very least, can you understand why the Phantom Menace feels like it's not Star Wars to those people? Like, that should be pretty easy. Well, in 5 short videos, we'll finally understand why Jar Jar doesn't suck. I'm going to need a bottle of vodka to get through the rest of this. I'm blaming him for it. If I wasn't high as a kite, I would have checked out by now. Oh, you're high as a kite? That's not fair. All right, so I don't have the next thing on standby. I mean, I can take a slight break, but I need to replenish food and such. I don't know how much more we're gonna get from this, but if you guys are intrigued, I'm not exactly ready to go, but at the same time, I do need to use the restroom. I do need to eat and all this other stuff. Keep an eye out. I might be back later. It's I know it's only about 5 p.m. over there. But yeah, I need to do things. Breaks are important. All right. Well, keep an eye out. You may see me shortly, relatively shortly.